World Without Money by Heath. No copyright. I have not asserted my right under the Copyright Designs and Patents Act 1988 to be identified as the author of this work. Anyone who wants to reproduce, distribute, quote or sing any or all of my book is welcome to do so. Contents. Part 1. A chat with some kids on the park. Page 1 to page 41. Part 2. The people of the future. Page 42 to page 73. Part 3. My thoughts and hopes. Page 74 to page 94. Part 4. A chat with some politicians on the park. Page 95 to page 110. Part 5. A letter to the human race. Help. Page 111 to page 114. Part 6. A timeline of Homo sapien, aka Wise Man. Page 115 to page 118. Page 1 of 118. Part 1. A chat with some kids on the park. Man must evolve, for all human conflict, a method that rejects revenge, aggression and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Martin Luther King, 1929 to 1968. A chat with some kids on the park. Sarah. Hello. Lee. Hello. Jane. Hi. Lee. Hello. Rob. Right, mate. Lee. Alright. John. Alright. Lee. Alright. Sarah. What you up to? Lee. Just chilling out. What about you? Sarah. Chilling. Lee. What's your names? Sarah, Rob, Jane, John. Sarah. What's your name? Lee. Jane. Are you into books? Lee. I love reading. Are you into books? Jane. Yeah. Lee. Have you read any good ones lately? Jane. I've just finished The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. Lee. His Dark Materials trilogy. Jane. Have you read them? Lee. Yeah, I thought they were great. I'm trying to write a book. Sarah. What's it called? Lee. I think I'll call it The People of the Future 2219 and Beyond. Or maybe just The People of the Future. Jane. What's it about? Lee. In the first half of the 21st century, capitalism is abolished and socialism implemented. By 2219, money, poverty, war, crime, pollution, national identity, and quite a few other things have become things of the past. Man has organised to the best of his ability and made life the best he can for humankind. The book is about the changes that have happened since the transition and what it's like to live in a socialist world. John, what is socialism? Lee. It's a world social system based upon the common ownership and democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth by and in the best interest of the human race. Jane. We're too young for all that shit. Lee. How old are you? Sarah, Jane, Rob, John. 14. Lee. I joined the Socialist Party of Great Britain when I was your age. Sarah. What's that? Lee. It's a political party that's a part of a worldwide movement called the World Socialist Movement, or the WSM for short. Rob. Do you think big fuck-off aliens will come to Earth? Lee. I think we're too far away for intelligent life to reach us. If intelligent aliens do make it to Earth, they'll either be proper horror show or friendly. Jane. Proper horror show? Lee. Ugly motherfuckers that want to rip our heads off. Sarah. Like in that film? Lee. Yeah, like in that film. Maybe the aliens will be socialists and they'll help us with our socialist revolution. John. Is socialism like what they used to have in Russia and China? Lee. No, they were dictatorships. A form of capitalism best described as state capitalism. Socialism is an ideal world system. The next step in social evolution. The emancipation of the workers. Socialism was abdicated by the Socialist Party of Great Britain, part of the World Socialist Movement. Under socialism, we won't use money. It will be a money-free world. People will have free and equal access to goods and services. It's a system that will make it possible for the human race to live in harmony with nature, to live in a way that is sustainable. Socialism will provide for up to 12 billion people at any one time the means to enjoy good lives. It's not a lack of resources that's causing poverty, nor an unwillingness on the part of people to work the raw materials into the things we require to meet our needs, but it's instead because of the insane world social system we currently live under. The battle of ideas between the advocates of socialism and the advocates of capitalism isn't just an argument of fair and unfair, good versus bad, right and wrong, love versus hate. It's a matter of life and death. If socialism isn't implemented soon, there will be a third world war. Armageddon will be the final line in the story of man. If socialism is implemented, the threat of nuclear Armageddon will be gone. If socialism is implemented, no one will ever be exploited again. No one will ever be a slave or wage slave again. Implementing socialism will mean one day there will be no more suicide bombers, no more stranger dangers, no more scumbags and bellends. If we implement socialism, there will be no more owning class or middle class or working class. There will be universal equality. One people, one world, all with free access to the means of living. I use the word socialism to mean the best world I think man can make for man. No poverty, no wars, little or no crime. A system that gives kids the best chance of being happy and growing up to be decent people. If a world free from scumbags and bellends is possible, socialism is a system most likely to make that goal a reality. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, the Labour Party have done socialism no favours. Today, socialism means many different things. Some people who call themselves socialists think Nazism and socialism are one and the same. Some people think state capitalism and socialism are one and the same thing. Many people who call themselves socialists think of socialism as simply a system in which people work less and get paid more. Many people think they are socialists if they enjoyed the ragged-trousered philanthropist. The multitude of ideas about what socialism is, what it means, has been and continues to be a problem for the world socialist movement. Socialism, to me, means a world social system based upon the common ownership and democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth by and in the best interest of my 7 billion brothers and sisters. 7 billion brothers and sisters is my affectionate way of referring to the family of man. I'm going to try to start a worldwide movement. I'm calling it the World Without Money Movement, or WWMM for short. The object of the WSM and the WWMM is the same. The difference is, if you're religious, you can't join the WSM. Whereas, if you believe that socialism is the best system for humankind and are willing to make the case for socialism using only peaceful means, debating, writing stories, poems, songs, making films, documentaries, and so on, then you can be a member of the WWMM, religious or not. Plus, I think the World Without Money movement is a better name for a socialist movement. Jane, are you religious? Lee, no. But I think religious people should be allowed to join the WSM. And because they're not, I'm going to try to start a movement that has the same object as the WSM, that religious people can join if they want. Rob, how many members does the WWMM have? Lee, there's just me at the moment. Until the WWMM grows, my advice is you check out the WSM. Have you got access to the internet? Jane, like duh. Lee, when I was your age, online was what my mum would say when I'd ask, where's my favourite t-shirt? Sarah, how old are you? Lee, 46. Go online and check out what the WSM has to say. Check out the object and declaration of principles. Check out the means by which the movement hopes to achieve its objective. Have a read of the pamphlets and the monthly magazine which is called the Socialist Standard. Sarah, have you got a dog? Lee, no. Sarah, don't you like dogs? Lee, I love dogs, I just haven't got one. Have you got a dog? Sarah, yeah. Rob, no. John, yeah. Jane, no. Lee, what sort of dog have you got? Sarah, a big daft one. Lee, cool. Sarah, he's a chocolate lab. John, what do you think should happen to people who are cruel to animals? Lee, you would have to give me a hypothetical example of someone being cruel to an animal before I could tell you what I think should happen to them. Jane, do you think people who are cruel to animals should be put in the stocks and whipped? Lee, I think you should be careful when you fight with monsters that you don't become a monster yourself. I hate cruelty to animals. A lot of the cruelty perpetrated on animals is by scumbags and bellends. Scumbags are cruel because they enjoy being cruel. Bellends because they're stupid and ignorant. Just as much, if not more, of the cruelty perpetrated on animals is because the welfare of animals is secondary to profit. I think that scumbags and bellends will soon cease to exist once socialism is implemented. And under socialism, the welfare of the animals we eat will be our first consideration. We will look after them well and slaughter them as humanely as possible. Jane, do you like poetry? Lee, it's okay. Do you like it? Jane, yeah? Lee, tell us a poem then. Jane, I don't really know any. Sarah, do you know any? Lee, I sometimes write a poem or a song. Jane, tell us one of your poems. Lee, okay. This one's called Workers of the World Unite. Workers of the world unite, because your interests are the same. The persuading politicians are piss takers, saying capitalism isn't really to blame. Make no bones about it, an old man said to me. The mental chains can be broken if the workers act as one. The emancipation of the workers is a good idea whose time has come. Workers of the world unite, all together now. Let's try with all our might to make life good and right. Workers of the world unite. Workers of the world, you make the world, so the full benefits of civilization should be all yours to enjoy. Peaceful worldwide revolution. Now's the time and place. A beautiful solution is in the hands of the working human race. Workers of the world unite. Let's do what is in our best interest. To us, the fruits of our labour. Take back what has been stolen. Share in a commonwealth. Take back the means to live, the means of production and distribution. Take it all back from the 1%. Abolish the money system. Implement socialism. Fight the good fight. Workers of the world unite. Jane, that was pretty good. Lee, thanks. Sarah, sing us one of your songs. Lee, okay. This one's called It's the Same Old Bird. Right wing, left wing, keep the status quo. Profit before need, it's the only way they know. Right wing, bash the workers, left wing, smash the workers, keep the rich rich. Isn't life a bitch? Right wing, left wing. It's the same old bird. Capitalism can't be fair, the idea is absurd. You can't polish a turd. Right wing, lie, lie, left wing, lie, lie. Workers cry, cry, workers die, die. Right wing, left wing, keep the status quo. Privilege, not equality, it's the only way they know. Right wing, trick the workers, left wing, fool the workers, keep the poor poor. Please, sir, can I have some more? Right wing, left wing, it's the same old bird. Capitalism can't be fair, the idea is absurd. You can't polish a turd. Right wing, left wing, their manifestos pollute the air. Keep the status quo and they'll kill the polar bear. Right wing, abuse the workers, left wing, use the workers. Keep the workers slaves, the fruits of their labour, nothing but a wage. Right wing, left wing, keep the status quo. Money is their god, it's the only way they know. Right wing, bug the workers, left wing, drug the workers. Keep them divided, there'll be no real change till the workers are united. Right wing, lie, lie, left wing, lie, lie. Workers cry, cry, workers die, die. Right wing, left wing, it's the same old bird. Capitalism can't be fair, the idea is absurd. You can't polish a turd, you can't polish a turd, you can't polish a turd. Sarah, that was pretty good. John, I thought it was pretty good. Rob, I liked it. Jane, so did I. Lee, thanks. Sarah, are you married? Lee, no. Jane, have you ever been married? Lee, no. Jane, why not? Lee, I've never met anyone I like that much. Sarah, do you think you'll ever get married? Lee, no. Jane, why not? Lee, don't think I'll ever meet anyone I like that much. Sarah, you might. Lee, it's possible. Jane, me and John are getting married the first day after John turns 21. Will people still get married if socialism happens? Lee, the marriage contract and marriage are not the same thing. The marriage contract is a social contract that has nothing to do with love. The contract gives a couple benefits they wouldn't get if they were to just cohabit. Although changes to the law over the years have meant that in some respects there is now no difference as regards rights between couples who tie the knot and couples who don't. In fact, I've heard of cases where a couple has ended up worse off because they signed a marriage contract. Today, the law sometimes favours the couple who cohabit. Under capitalism, I think a marriage contract will cease to exist because money will no longer be a part of the equation. I think that once a couple have made up their minds that they want to spend their life with each other, they will stand before their friends and family and speak words of love, including vows that they have written for one another. And that will be the future for marriage under socialism. Rob, do you believe there's like parallel universes? Lee, I don't believe that you or I exist on any other world or at any other time but right here, right now. Rob, do you think the machines will one day take over? Lee, hundreds of years ago, a man made a toy for his son. He shaped it and painted it to look like a little drummer boy. Inside the body of the toy were wheels and cogs, which made the little drummer boy look like he was banging on a little drum with little toy drumsticks. Computer machines have silicon chips with programs on them inside their bodies. We are as close today to making/creating computer machines that think as the man who made his son a toy was hundreds of years ago. We use words to try to explain what's going on. Sometimes the words we choose give a false impression of what's really happening. I think the use of words like intelligence and learning with regard to computers is a case in point. I have seen nothing to make me think the day will ever dawn when a computer knows what it's saying when it speaks the words, I think, therefore I am. If in the world today there was a computer that had developed an awareness of itself, an ability to understand, and a real ability to learn, even if it only had the mental age of a 2-year-old, I would regard that with cause for concern. But I have not seen any indication that computers have developed even a little bit of real intelligence. I think computer machines for all time will remain as they are now today, unthinking, useful tools. All AI is a matter of programming. Try as we might, we will never program independent thought. Jane, do you think people will go extinct one day? Lee, hopefully there are people sat chilling and chatting on parks for billions of years. A nuclear war could wipe out mankind. A virus could wipe us out. A space rock, meteorite, whatever, could take us out. Mega volcano, mega flood, mega ice age. If we don't get taken out by our own hand, and if nature doesn't go apeshit, then there's no good reason why we can't live on Earth for the next 3 billion years. 3 billion years from now, the sun will have heated up to such a degree that people can't survive. I think the distance from Earth to another world where we could live is too far away. Whether we are wiped out because of our own stupidity, or taken out by nature, or slowly fade and die out when it gets too hot, the human race will, I believe, be no more someday. Sarah, do you think global warming is real? Jane, I do. John, one day I bet there's another ice age. Rob, do you think humans are polluting the atmosphere? Lee, yeah. Sarah, why do people do it? Lee, capitalism, gain today, let the devil take tomorrow. It's the nature of the beast. Where money can be made, damage to the environment will at best be a secondary consideration, especially as it appears to be, in its most catastrophic form, a problem for future man. Good people around the world can win battles under capitalism, save a rainforest here, a polar bear there, but they won't win the war whilst the money system is in place. Capitalism allows a tiny number of people to own and control the Earth's resources. They don't organise the means of production and distribution to meet man's needs. That isn't where their interest lies. And because of where their interest lies, they own and control the Earth's resources and the means of production and distribution to the detriment of man and Earth. The interest of the owning class is to make money, and to hell with our children's children's children. We need to have a peaceful worldwide revolution, a socialist revolution, to establish a system that is in the best interest of humankind and Mother Earth. Sarah, why do you sometimes say mankind and sometimes humankind? Lee, they mean the same thing. I guess I just get bored using the same word all the time. Jane, do you think people will do irreparable damage to the planet? Lee, the only reason I don't think it will be an accumulation of pollution that does for the human race is because I think we will all die in a nuclear war before we have time to pollute ourselves from the face of the Earth. I think there'll be no one on the surface of Earth in the next 50 years, and no one alive underground 100 years from now if we don't get our shit together and implement socialism. John, why do you believe nuclear Armageddon is just around the corner? Lee, because luck doesn't last. All the members of the SPGB I've known see there being a gradual increase in the number of socialists until there are enough people who are class conscious and the emancipation of the workers becomes a possibility. Whereas I think the WSM and or the WWMM will have to grow exponentially. A gradual increase in the number of socialists over 50 or 100 or 150 years won't be how socialism comes to be, for one simple reason. Politicians have the same aim now as they've always had, the same aim as in 1914 and 1939, which is to keep the status quo. They tinker with the system, but never try to change it. The difference between 1914 and 1939 and today is we now have the means to annihilate the human race. It's only blind luck that sees us still here. That luck will not last 50 more years, let alone 150 years. We need to stop the crazy politicians from killing everybody, and the only way to do that is by implementing socialism. I don't know what the catalyst will be for the WSM and or the WWMM to grow exponentially. I just believe there will have to be one. Maybe it will take the form of whoever happens to be the latest dickhead in the White House taking us to the brink and scaring the crap out of everyone. Maybe that will have the effect of making people in large numbers search for a better system. There have been a couple of warmongering maniacs in recent years who have come very close to becoming the President of America. You can bet your bottom dollar that if the ultimate insanity in the story of man were to happen, it will be the exceptionally stupid American president that presses the button first. We're not going to keep dodging the bomb. Like I said at the start of my answer, luck doesn't last. Have you heard of John Lennon? Rob, is he in the Beatles? Lee, that's him. If in 1980 John would have announced that he was joining the Socialist Party of Great Britain and that all the money from the copyright of his songs was going to go to the WSM in future, hundreds of thousands of people around the world, maybe even millions of his fans, would have been curious enough to find out something about the movement. I'm not saying they all would have joined the movement, only that they would have checked it out. Owning the copyright of Lennon's songs would have generated millions of pounds over the years. The WSM could have made movies and documentaries and done all sorts of other things to try to turn people on to socialism. Maybe a brilliant band will come along this year or next, and the lead singer and writer of most of their best songs will be in an interview, and he or she will say, I just joined the World Socialist Movement. Jane, or the World Without Money Movement. Lee, yes, or the World Without Money Movement. And this brilliant singer-songwriter will say, everyone should go online and check out the WSM. Sarah, or the WWMM. Lee, if the WWMM has something to check out, then yes. A brilliant singer-songwriter in a brilliant band could be the catalyst that gets the ball rolling. The socialist revolution can only truly be said to have kicked off when people in pubs and workplaces and homes and parks all over the world start talking about socialism. Have you heard of Tom Paine? John, was he in the Moody Blues? Lee, Tom Paine was a genius. He was an English philosopher in the 1700s. His most famous book was The Rights of Man. The world could do with a modern day Tom Paine to write a modern day Rights of Man. That might act as the catalyst for the peaceful worldwide socialist revolution. Rob, I know you're the leader of the WWMM, but who's the leader of the WSM? Lee, I'm not the leader of the World Without Money movement, I'm just its only member. As for the WSM, it's a movement of equals, just like the WWMM will be if it grows. Socialism is an idea that requires a certain amount of understanding, not sheep playing a game of follow me leader. All those who believe socialism is the right path for man to travel walk united, side by side, in the same direction with the same destination in mind. You are your own leader when you know where you want to be and how to get there. The 1904 Socialist Object and Declaration of Principles isn't complicated. As long as you have a couple of brain cells to rub together, you'll understand it. Maybe it's a good idea whose time has come. Hopefully, sometime in the not too distant future, enough people will have got the idea and peace on earth can be made a reality. Sarah, I don't get how people will pay for things if there's no money. Lee, all the goods and all the services will be free because that's the way we will organise it to be. A socialist system will make it possible for man to live in a money-free world. You won't pay for anything. You won't pay anything for the means of living, and you won't get paid for working. John, I like the first part of what you just said, the everything will be free bit, but why the fuck would people work if they don't get paid? Lee, under capitalism, a worker gets a wage for their labour. In many cases, the money is just enough to scrape by from one week to the next. Under socialism, workers won't be workers in a way we think of workers. People will no longer be working to create profit for an owning class, but instead for the common good of humankind. Their pay won't take the form of an often pitiful wage, but will instead take the form of free access. All work should bring people joy, or at the very least satisfaction. Many jobs being done today would cease to exist if socialism was established. There are many jobs that only have a value in a capitalist world. There are millions of workers around the world whose job it is to operate a till. If there was no money, there'd be no tills. Computer machines are not working to their maximum capacity under capitalism. If socialism was implemented, computer machines would be employed to do as much of the mundane work as they can. Once you take away all the jobs that only have a value in a capitalist world, and once you have computer machines doing all the work they can, there will still be jobs that people will have to do. Those jobs will be organised in a way that is good and fair. People won't have to do jobs they hate that cause them large amounts of stress and general unhappiness. Under socialism, life will be organised to give people maximum leisure time and positive production time. People won't feel exploited when they work, won't feel like the job they did had no real value. Even a shitty job like a sewer inspector, a job that at the moment computer machines can't do, people will volunteer to do. And whilst it's not a fun job, the people who do it can take satisfaction from the knowledge that the work they did contributed something positive to humanity. You four have never given a moment's thought to a world without money. Imagine someone trying to explain to a 14-year-old kid who has been born and raised in a socialist world how capitalism worked. Tax, rent, debt, money, poverty, etc. have not been known in living memory. To that child, hopefully of the future, it would seem as baffling as I imagine my attempt to explain how socialism would work to you has been. I hope I haven't confused you too much or said anything to put you off. And one day you'll check out what the World Socialist Movement, Rob, or the World Without Money Movement, Lee, or the World Without Money Movement has to say. Sarah, I'm hungry. Jane, me too. Lee, time flies when you're having fun. Sarah, can you meet us here next Sunday? Lee, same time? Sarah, yeah. Lee, okay. Sarah, bye Lee. Lee, bye. Jane, bye. Rob, see you mate. Lee, see ya. John, see you later. Lee, take it easy. Hey, before you go, let me leave you with one last thought. Persuading politicians and the capitalist media have hoodwinked many of the 7 billion people in the world into accepting, indeed supporting, an insane world social system. It's not too late to undo their bullshit. Socialism can set us free. Free from the misery of poverty, the horror of war, and the terror and fear of crime. We, the workers of the world united, can make Earth, if not paradise, then as near as makes no difference. 1 week later. Sarah, hello, are you chilling again? Yep. Oh, Lee, yep. What you been up to? Jane, not a lot. What about you? Lee, I'm still trying to write my book. John, what's it called again? Lee, I'm either going to call it The People of the Future 2219 and Beyond, or The People of the Future. Rob, are you into football? Lee, yeah. Who do you support? Rob, Manchester United. Lee, me too. Are you any good? Rob, yeah. I've had a trial for Blackburn. Sarah, Rob's really good. He's going to be a professional. Jane, are you any good? Lee, I was okay as a kid, but never good enough to have trials for anyone. I was in my school football team. We were shit. We never won a match. One time we got beat 20-0. Do you eat, sleep and shit football? Rob, yeah. Lee, I've written a poem that's got a football theme to it. Do you want to hear it? Rob? Yeah? Lee? Okay. It's called Man United. If Man were united, what a team we'd be. Scoring all our goals, like ending poverty. The workers on the same side, together in a unity. All for one and one for all. Looking after each other and earth, the cosmic ball. The capitalist game is foul and insane. Country versus country, worker against worker, bringing misery and pain. Competing to make a profit for a few means we don't make an abundance of what we need. We should be cooperating, workers working for each other, making the best universal, everybody equal and free to live like they want to live. If man were united, it would be a whole other thing. We could play a fair game where every heart can sing. Play the game together, play the game we love in our heart. Let's abolish capitalism, let's make a brand new start. If man were united, we would be the greatest team our world has ever seen. It sounds like an impossible treble to end poverty, war and crime. But if we try the best we can, it could be the end result here in space and time. Without the ball, we ain't got no game. So let's not fuck it up. Let's just play it nice and cool. Man United won't be nobody's fool. Earth, the cosmic ball, can belong to one and all. When Man United wins the day, when we kick down the wall. Man United, the dream team, playing all over the earth. Oh, what a happy scene. Rob, that's not bad. Lee, thanks. Jane, sing us one of your songs. Lee, okay, this one's called Magic Wand. If I had a magic wand, I'd sit. Fuck, here we go, I'll try that again. If I had a magic wand, I'd wave it all day long. I'd wave away the poverty, the wars and crime. I'd wave away all the things that screw with my mind. If I had a magic wand, I'd wave it all day long. I'd wave away the racism from all the racist minds. I'd wave away the cruelty and make everybody kind. Magic fucking wand, magic fucking wand, my magic fucking wand, magic fucking wand. If I had a magic wand, I'd wave it all day long. I'd wave away pollution, lickety spit. I'd wave my magic wand song, a #1 hit. If I had a magic wand, I'd wave it all day long. I'd solve the unsolvable, I'd do the best I could. I wouldn't be a pal, my crazy bastard, I'd give man all my love. Magic fucking wand, magic fucking wand, my magic fucking wand, magic fucking wand. If I had a magic wand, I'd wave it all day long. I'd make the earth a loving place, a place that's best for the human race. No more war, just peace in space. If I had a magic wand, I'd wave it all day long. I'd wave wave after wave of debates and programmes on TV, all about a social system, a world without money. Magic wand, my magic song, magic fucking wand. John, that was fucking ace. Lee, thanks. Sarah, I was wondering. Lee, oh yeah. Sarah, would we still have to go to school if there was socialism? Lee, the changes the revolution will bring, the change from a money-orientated society to one of free access, won't happen overnight. Implementing socialism will mean there are many changes to institutions. Some institutions, like banks, will cease to exist altogether. If socialism becomes a reality, money will become a thing of the past. Poverty and war, things of the past. Crime, either a thing of the past or a fraction of what it is today. Pollution, a thing of the past. National identity, a thing of the past. And compulsory schooling, I believe, a thing of the past. Kids will go voluntarily to classes to learn stuff they give a shit about, and will no longer be forced into classes to learn stuff they couldn't give a shit about. That's my opinion anyway. If under socialism the majority of parents want compulsory schools, then that will be what there will be. John, if there's a revolution, will I still be allowed to be English? Lee, I don't really know what it means to be English. I think the whole concept of national identity might be an illusion, maybe even a delusion. If you think of yourself as an English lad, that's fine. The revolution to change an insane system to a system of common ownership and democratic control of the means of production and distribution by and in the best interest of the human race won't mean that you have to stop thinking you're an English lad and one day an English man. I think if socialism is implemented, more and more people, as time rolls on, will come to think of themselves as a part of one people, one world. In time, people who feel they have a national identity will fade and die. I hope one day people all feel and say, my country is the world. Rob, will people still play football if there's a revolution? Lee, the world is a new place and all the things in it, new things to each and every baby that is ever born. If people love and play on Earth till the sun gets too hot, then for all those 3 billion years, there will have been people who have enjoyed playing football. Jane, do you think... Jane, I don't think things are all that bad in England. Lee, in comparative terms, we live in a very nice country. Not just in England, but throughout the world, there are many people going about their ordinary business, eating, watching TV, visiting friends, and having fun. I just think that they can have fun, but also get involved with the socialist revolution, live for more, help break the chains of poverty. Jane, I think a revolution is a silly idea. Lee, why's that? Jane, well, whenever there's a revolution, loads of people end up dying. Lee, well then, this revolution will just have to be unprecedented. The peaceful revolution. We can't get socialism down the barrel of a gun. If enough people demand socialism and do it in a way that is positive, soldiers will stand shoulder to shoulder with the workers. There were reforms in America in the 1960s. They weren't brought about by people smashing things up and fighting with the police. They were brought about by lawyers making persuasive arguments in court. Because socialists are not talking about reforms, but instead a change of world social system, it will be tried in the court of public opinion, the world's public. Many people haven't figured it out yet that it doesn't matter which party is in government. If they don't intend to abolish capitalism, they will have as their primary objective, like it or not, to serve the interest of the owning class, an interest that is diametrically opposed to that of the 99%. I'm not saying that if a politician tells you it's raining, you should look out the window, although, to be on the safe side, you should look out the window. What I am saying is, when a politician tells you what is in the best interest of the workers, they're lying. Some lie knowingly because they like the rewards of being politicians. Some lie because they believe capitalism is the best system human wisdom can devise. You said, whenever there's a revolution, loads of people end up dying. There's no rule that says revolution can't be non-violent. And think about this. Loads of people have lost their lives today because of capitalism. Or to put it another way, because of unnecessary, avoidable poverty that wouldn't exist under socialism. If we don't try to have a peaceful worldwide revolution because we're scared it will turn into a violent pile of shit, loads more people will suffer death by capitalism in the run-up to man's annihilation in an all-out nuclear war. There are 1,000,001 things that will try to stop or hold back the socialist revolution, from the puppet politicians to the muppet media, and also bellends who don't understand the socialist case well enough not to use violence. Anyone engaging in violent action is condemned by the World Socialist Movement, Sarah, and the World Without Money movement, Lee. He's not a part of the World Socialist Movement, Rob, or the World Without Money movement, Lee. and is doing the socialist cause no good. That's to say, the works of the world no favours. John, I've been thinking. Lee, good for you. John, do you know those Muslim nut jobs? Lee, yeah. John, they won't give a shit about socialism. All they give a shit about is the next life. Lee, the leaders of ISIS not only couldn't give a shit about socialism, they couldn't give a shit about religion. All they're after is power and money. Religion, for them, is just a tool they use to get gullible fools to help them get what they truly believe is great: power and money. Very few religious people, Muslim or otherwise, take the extreme view that if someone doesn't believe in their version of the sugar plum fairy, they will kill them or try to. If a person's belief in the Christian sugar plum fairy, or Hindu sugar plum fairy, or Jewish sugar plum fairy, or Mormon sugar plum fairy, or whichever sugar plum fairy is not a danger to others, then crack on. People who believe there's an afterlife, for the most part, were taught to believe there's a life after death by the two people they loved and trusted most when they were very young. Most religious people agree that no one knows for sure what happens after we die, and that life before death is the only one we know for sure exists. I believe that if there is a loving God, his one and only commandment would be, everyone must help to make life the best for mankind. 7 billion brothers and sisters must establish a world social system that has for its blueprint that the means of production and distribution become the property of 7 billion sisters and brothers. In other words, Lee's socialism. I think that if socialism was implemented, at some point in the future, everyone would be an atheist. If socialism is implemented, and for the rest of man's time on Earth, there are people who believe there's a sugar plum fairy, that's okay, so long as they're of the live and let live persuasion. I don't see religion as an insurmountable barrier to peace on Earth, or to ending poverty. Jane, how did religion get started? Lee, once upon a time, 100,000 years ago or thereabouts, people started doing drugs and making up stories. They didn't know what was going on, so they made up answers to try to explain things. They made up supernatural beings, gods of thunder and lightning, gods of the mountains and forests, gods of happy, joy, and mean old gods. In the beginning, the stories had the effect of dispelling some of the fear people felt due to their lack of knowledge and understanding of their environment. Sometimes a wrong answer is better than no answer. In time, religion was used as a justification for crimes against humanity, slavery, oppression, intolerance, and why the pharaoh lived in a big house and had loads of money, and everyone else lived in little houses and had little or no money. And then science came along, and Galileo, Newton, Darwin, Einstein, and others enlightened many people. And if socialism replaces capitalism, then I think that in less than 200 years, the gods will be put to bed and believed in no more. Sarah, it was Rob's birthday on Thursday. Lee, happy birthday, Rob. Sarah, will people still celebrate birthdays in a socialist world? Lee, I would imagine so. Although, I think Christmas will become nothing more than a footnote in a story of man. Sarah, fuck off. Lee, do you like Christmas then? Sarah, I fucking love Christmas. Lee, well, everyone who enjoys the various celebrations around the world today, be it Christmas or Ramadan or Bonfire Night or Groundhog Day, will go on enjoying those celebrations till the day they die. But because I think that if socialism was implemented, religion and national identity will fade away, it follows that I think the celebrations connected to them will also come to an end. There has never been a celebration that everyone on earth celebrates. I think if socialism is established, there will be, for the first time in human history, a celebration that everyone enjoys. The celebration will be to mark the transition from capitalism to socialism. It might last for 3 billion years, and it might take place on April the 14th. Sarah, why April the 14th? Lee, no reason. Every day of the year has a 1 in 365 chance of being a special day, and that's true of April the 14th. The celebration might be given the name Love Everyone on Earth Day. Jane, that's a nice name for a celebration. Lee, yes, I think it's kind of catchy. I think the first day of a great future begins when Love Everyone on Earth Day is celebrated. John, what will people give each other for presents if everything is free? Lee, they will give each other things they have made. They may cook or bake something. They might make some perfume or jewellery or a toy or a computer game. They might grow some flowers or make some furniture or make something from cloth. They might write and sing a song as a present or whatever. Many goods will come as standard, but I think people will make a lot of their own things. I think most factories will be fully automated. The goods they produce will be made using the best materials and to the highest standard. Cars, for example, will come as standard. A 5-seater standard car, or an 8-seater standard car, or whatever. There won't be much variety in standard cars. That said, the way technology is going, one day people will be able to draw a picture of a car, one with its own unique specifications, and send it from their home computer to a fully automated car factory that will turn their design into reality. And a week later, the computer at the car factory will send them a message saying, "Your car's ready, come and get it." I imagine there will be fully automated clothes factories. And whilst people will wear standard made clothes, they will, more often than not, make their own. People won't be dedicated followers of fashion. They will march to the beat of their own drum. If socialism is established, the people of the future will have a far greater sense of individuality than people today. The one way they will all be the same is in the belief that a system of society based upon the common ownership and democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth, buying in the best interest of their 7 billion brothers and sisters, is the way to arrange the business of man. I tried to write a song for Love Everyone on Earth Day, but it didn't pan out too well. Jane, let's hear it. Lee, okay, it's called Love Everyone on Earth Day. Let the day dawn when a new man is born, to a loving world that's loving up a storm. One people, one world, under the sun, all loving everyone, playing with purpose in the world we're living on. Love everyone on Earth Day, a celebration filled with love, marking the end of an insane system and the beginning of a free world. When all the workers stand together, find the key to unlock the door. Bright be the day we walk into the future, where poverty, war and crime are no more. The winds of change are blowing, can't you feel it in the air? Man's heart and mind is glowing, growing brighter everywhere. The mighty human race have climbed many mountains to get where we are today. A world social system that works for one and all can't be far away. The family of man under the sun, all loving everyone, playing with purpose in the world we're living on. Love everyone on Earth Day, a celebration filled with love, marking the end of an insane system and the beginning of a free world. Love everyone on Earth Day, love everyone on Earth Day. Please don't be far away, Day, so let it be. Sarah, that was okay. Lee, thanks. Rob, what I want to know is, when's this revolution going to happen? Lee, for one reason or another, when it comes to revolution, I've always thought in terms of the TV. The possibilities the internet presents in terms of revolution have only lately begun to dawn on me. Because of the invention of the internet, the case for socialism being made by the WSM has never been easier for people to check out. The internet gives the movement the potential to grow exponentially. John, if the WWMM starts to grow, people will be able to check out what they had to say on the internet. Lee, that's true. If the socialist revolution gathers pace, the workers in all parts of the world will start to feel like they are sharing a unique and very special experience. In the end, no country's workers will stand alone, but will instead have the backing of the workers of the world. The governments around the world want the workers to go on thinking that their poverty, their job insecurity, their stress is the fault of other workers, or because of economic factors that are impossible to predict or do anything about. And a tightening of one's belt just has to be accepted, as though hunger in a world of potential abundance is normal. What the puppet politicians don't want is for the workers of the world to wake up and smell the coffee, to understand that the solution to their poverty, insecurity and stress is to implement socialism. Whilst good has come from fighting for rights for workers under capitalism, there will never be universal freedom and equality under capitalism. Do you remember I mentioned reforms in America in the 1960s? Jane, yeah. Lee, at the start of the 1960s, black-skinned wage slaves had to sit at the back of a bus. But thanks to reforms, by the end of the 1960s, wage slaves, regardless of skin colour, could sit anywhere they wanted on a bus. Freedom, man, the equality of wage slaves to sit anywhere they want on a bus. Tom Paine said, "When something is originally wrong, reforms will not make it right, and they will often do as much mischief one way as good the other." The world shared an experience in 1969 when people bounced about on the moon. It didn't matter that the space cadets were born and raised in the USA. The greatest shared experience in the story of man is yet to come, and may never come. Man is being held back by capitalism. Workers are being stopped by an insane social system from enjoying the full benefits from the fruits of their collective labour. The acceptable limits for change on offer have been preconditioned into a population which has absorbed the assumption that the fundamentals of current society are ultimately both normal and unchangeable. A tiny minority owning and controlling the means to live is the way of the world, and the way it will remain. Workers shouldn't go engaging in a battle of ideas to try to change the status quo. Why bother to try to change the unchangeable? Capitalism isn't perfect, but it's not all bad. For workers all over the world, the bread has never tasted so good. The circuses have never been so entertaining. And anyway, there's no other system that could possibly work half so well. They've all been tried, they didn't work. Workers should accept that the only realistic option they can call for is reform when they feel like they're being treated like shit. After all, reforms have done so much good. Trusting politicians to fight to make the best society possible for the workers is misplaced trust. The world has suffered enough because of the follies and beliefs of lying, misleading and mistaken politicians. The workers of the world must unite, organise as one body, with one aim in mind: break the chains of poverty, of our wage slavery, remove the blinkers from our eyes, See not national identity, or religion, or cultural differences, or race, or colour, or any other fucking thing as an insurmountable obstacle that will stop us from winning through to a world fit for a healthy, intelligent, loving man. In some cultures, women are treated like second-class citizens, the slave to the slaves. They're treated abysmally, like they've got shit for brains. At the turn of the 20th century, many men and women in England thought women had shit for brains, and if they were allowed to vote, the country would go to rack and ruin. Now, almost all of the English are more enlightened. We know the truth. Women have no more got shit for brains than men have. Workers, both men and women, in the countries where women are being treated badly, need to wise up. It's the young people who have it in their power to make the breakthrough and change the misogynistic, patriarchal cultures. It will help them if they see the WSM, Rob, or the WWMM, Lee, becoming a real force in the world, to move with the times, stop being backward, and become socially enlightened towards their sisters. No one is born a footwit, though many sadly die in that condition. Everyone who isn't a footwit wants to live a successful, productive, useful life. A successful life is one in which a person has been more happy than not. Happiness derived from another's misery is bad happiness and cannot be counted as a success. A productive life can only take place within a society or community. A person living alone in the wild is not living a productive life. To be productive, a person must give at least as much as they take back to society or a community. A useful life is one in which a person is making at least one other person happy, so long as it's good happiness. That's my take on a successful, productive, useful life anyway. Whether or not man's social evolution had to follow the path it did, it has led man to a crossroads. One road leads to Armageddon, the other to a world social system that sees the wealth produced by the workers converted into a commonwealth to be shared equally and freely, and for the means of production and distribution to be converted into common property, and the democratic control of the means to life by the people for the people. Any time man wants to organise the end of this insane capitalist system and implement socialism, he can. Sometimes things just seem to happen and change follows rapidly. If socialism becomes a reality, then there will be a time where there exist people of two worlds, people born into a world living under capitalism who make the transition to socialism. If that time comes, then one day the last person to have lived in both worlds will die. From that day forward, everyone will go from the cradle to the grave, having only ever lived in a world without money. William Blake said, "What is now proven was once only imagined." Albert Einstein said, "Imagination is greater than intellect." John Lennon sang, "Imagine all the people sharing all the world." I'd like to see an imagining of socialism in stories and poems and songs, in films and programs for the radio, the TV, the internet. All the facts and figures. I'd like to know how many repetitive and tedious jobs people do can be done just as well by machines. How many jobs people do that would cease to have a value if making money was no longer the aim of the system. How best to build the infrastructure of the world when money is no longer a part of the equation. How best for the world to go about dismantling capitalism. How a socialist system would work in all aspects of life. How the world would look and feel if man was to organise to the best of his ability, and so on. I can see a bright future for you and me. I can see us making this earth into one great big beautiful home and garden for the family of man, living in harmony with nature, peace and love with all our brothers and sisters. When will this revolution happen? I don't know. Maybe it's already started. In a sense, maybe it began a long time ago. What are we waiting for? All the stars to align? A sign in the sky saying the time is nigh to get it on right away? We're under starters' orders, ready, steady, go. No. We're waiting for enough people to be persuaded of the wisdom of abolishing capitalism and establishing socialism. Sarah, I decided to join the World Without Money movement. Jane, me too. Rob, and me. Jane, what about you, John? John, okay. Lee, great stuff. What is the object of the World Without Money movement? John, to establish a world social system based upon the common ownership, Jane, and democratic control of the means and instruments, Sarah, for producing and distributing wealth, Rob, buying in the best interest of our 7 billion brothers and sisters. Lee, what are you not to do when trying to persuade people to become socialists? John, be violent. Lee, what can you do to try to persuade people to become socialists? Jane, write poems and songs. Rob, make sound arguments in debates. Sarah, write books and pamphlets. John, make movies and documentaries and programmes for the TV and internet. Lee, you can now consider yourselves as members of the WWMM. Jane, do we get a membership card? Lee, if you want a membership card, then when you get home, get a bit of card and write on it, I'm a member of the World Without Money movement. Sarah, can we have a badge? Lee, again, if you want a badge, then when you get home, get a bit of card and some sellotape and a nappy pin and write on the card, World Without Money movement. Or you could just put the initials WWMM. Sarah, we've got to go now. Lee, goodbye, Sarah. Sarah, bye, Lee. Jane, bye. Lee, goodbye, Jane. Rob, see you, Lee. Lee, goodbye, Rob. John, see you, mate. Lee, goodbye, John. Sarah, ain't you got to leave us with one last thought? Lee, okay, I'll leave you with something Tom Paine said. I'd like to change and lose one or two of the words he used, but I won't. I'll just say it the way Tom Paine wrote it. Man is not the enemy of man, but through the medium of a false system of government. Instead, therefore, of exclaiming against the ambition of nations, the exclamation should be directed against the principle of government, and instead of seeking to reform the individual, the wisdom of people should apply itself to change the system. Whether the forms and maxims of the world which are still in place were adopted to the condition of the world at the period they were established is not in this case the question. The older they are, the less correspondence can they have with the present state of things. Time and change of circumstances and opinions have the same progressive effect in rendering modes of government obsolete as they have upon customs and manners. Agriculture, commerce, manufacturers, and the tranquil arts by which the prosperity of the world is best promoted require a different system to control and a different species of knowledge to direct its operations than what might have been required when the system the world uses now first came into being. Page 42 of 118, Part 2, The People of the Future. Strangers are just friends we've yet to meet. Anon. 1. The bad old days. 22:19. 2. Orange Blossom House, 34:23. 3. A Likely Story, 39:99. 4. White Dove, 47:86. 5. What Matters, 14:472. The Bad Old Days, 22:19. It's a beautiful day. Sitting together on Melrose Park in Hale Barnes Village, Cheshire, England, are two couples, Eric and Sylvia, and Wally and Blanche, who are all in their 90s, and 8-year-old Brad and his 5-year-old sister, Della. "We watched a really old movie yesterday," said Della. "There was no talking in it." "It was a silent movie," said Brad. "The actor in it was called Harold Lloyd." "What was the name of it?" asked Eric. "Safety Last," said Della and Brad at the same time. "Is that the one where he dangles off a clock?" asked Wally. "Yeah," said Brad. "Were talking movies invented after you were born, Grampy?" asked Della, with a mischievous look on her face. "No, silly, they're not that old," said Brad, who couldn't always tell when Della was acting the goat. "Do you know who the last person to live under capitalism was?" asked Sylvia. "Yeah," said Brad, who liked history. "It was June White. I think she died in 2132. "It was 2142, said Eric. "Years ago, me and Sylvia visited the place where she's buried. I can still remember what it says on the headstone. Here lies June White, 2020 to 2142. The last person to live in two worlds. Born into a world living under capitalism. Died in a socialist world. World without money forever." "My great-gran knew people when she was little who could remember using money," said Blanche. "She used to call the time before socialism the bad old days." "Do you think people will ever use money again?" asked Della. "There's no chance humankind will ever go back to capitalism. The money system has had its day," said Eric. In the first half of the 21st century, the world experienced a transition from capitalism to a world social system based upon the common ownership and democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth, buying in the best interests of the human race. The year is 2219. It has been 200 years since debates and programs on TV and the internet about dismantling and abolishing capitalism and implementing socialism have really got going. The positive and enlightening debates and programs quickly became popular, and it wasn't very long before people all over the world started to join the World Socialist Movement or the World Without Money movement. Movements both dedicated to ridding the world of an insane social system and establishing socialism. It took a surprisingly short space of time to convince enough people that the time had come to change the way the affairs of mankind were organised. Once enough people had decided it was for the best to implement socialism, the full and complete transition was achieved in under 20 years. To begin with, the vast majority of the 7 billion people living at the pre-transition time laughed at the small number of people who thought getting rid of the money system was in the best interest of humankind. Why get rid of the money system? How do we go about dismantling capitalism? Why will people go to work if they don't get paid a wage? What will happen to law and order? What will happen to governments? The people of the past had millions of questions, all of which were given very reasonable answers, until enough people were satisfied that what the advocates of socialism were saying was not a joke, but something they needed to be a part of. The people of the past were skeptical because they had never seen the case for real socialism made on TV and the internet in such a novel way. And few people had ever read any WSM or WWMM literature, and therefore given any real thought to socialism. The change the world underwent happened seemingly in the blink of an eye. Many people couldn't believe they had moved so quickly from a crazy world system to a system designed to be the best. It didn't happen overnight, but to the people involved, it kind of felt like it did. People were so surprised because they hadn't really realised just how fucking ace the human race could be if it put its mind to it. Poverty is now a thing of the past. Poverty wasn't because nature didn't produce the raw materials in enough abundance to satisfy the wants and needs of mankind, or because there were not enough people ready, willing, and able to turn nature's bounty into goods that would provide everyone with a good standard of living, but was instead the result of not having organised a system of society that worked best for the workers. War is now a thing of the past. In 2 world wars and numerous local ones, workers have been persuaded to identify with their master's cause in a mistaken belief that they were fighting for a higher national interest. But the national interest was always the only class interest. Workers had nothing to gain from fighting the battles of a class whose interests were opposed to their own. Crime is now a thing of the past. It turned out that crime was a symptom of capitalism. At the time of the transition, there were serial killers and rapists and wife beaters and other scum. But by implementing socialism, the conditions that gave people the best chance to grow up to be decent people were put in place. The definition of a baby is someone who knows jack shit. Not right from wrong, fair from unfair, just jack shit. None of the people of the past who grew up to be scum were born scum. Year on year after the transition saw less and less babies growing up to be serial killers, rapists, wife beaters, and all the other types of scum, until scum had become extinct. The world the people of 2219 live in isn't paradise. It's just the best the human race can make for themselves. People all share the belief that socialism is a system best suited to looking after humankind's physical, mental, and emotional well-being. People are as diverse in the things they like as you can imagine. People are free thinkers. They have their own views on life, the individual trip. People find some truths that are only truths to themselves. The meaning of life for the human race is that everyone should be fed, watered, and happy, and be given the best chance to be happy. And this state of affairs maintained till man lives on earth no more. Till that day, it is all for one and one for all. You will treat others well, with love, because they're your brothers and sisters, and in return they will do the same. Pollution is a thing of the past. Most power is derived from the sun. Mankind had been lucky that at the time of the transition, no permanent damage had been done to Earth's atmosphere or oceans. Once upon a time, the world system worked to the detriment of man and Earth. But now the fast-talking phonies smoking big cigars and the insane capitalist system are gone, and land, sea, and sky are clean. The people who thought and argued that socialism would mean a much better life for life on Earth used only good ideas and compassion and imagination and humour and their love to make the case for socialism. They never used violence. They didn't need to line all the politicians up against the wall and shoot the bastards. Governments are a thing of the past. The job of turning raw materials, the job of distributing goods, requires people to manage and organise. A position of management is achieved through merit. Some people couldn't organise a piss-up in a brewery. They just don't have the right mindset for it. So they instead do other jobs that suit their talents. The position of management in the production and distribution of the means of life, and the position of management of the services people want and need, are not positions that can be abused. The way in which socialism works, a manager couldn't be a corrupt scumbag even if they wanted to be. Sometimes a vote for or against a thing is called for in a local area. Sometimes everyone on the planet votes for or against a thing. Majority vote always settles the argument. The first generation, born after the transition, grew up with a different species of knowledge. They grew up thinking of each other as a part of one people, one world. National identity is a thing of the past. Love of country has given way to love of the world. At the time of the transition, there were people who loved their countries more than they loved their world. Now, children are brought up with the feeling that Earth is their home, and that their love belongs to the family of man. My country is the world, the people all say. Belief in God is a thing of the past. Everyone is welcome to believe that God or anything else exists, even if they have neither evidence or what anyone in their right mind regards as a rational argument to support their crazy belief. Whilst everyone is welcome to believe that God or leprechauns or fairies or the ridiculous snowman exists, no one does. That's just the way it is. At the time of the transition, people around the world celebrated lots of different things. People who had always enjoyed one celebration or another continued to enjoy them till the day they died. Celebrations had come and gone for thousands of years before the transition. For many years now, the biggest and best of all man's celebrations takes place on April the 14th and is called Love Everyone on Earth Day. It is a celebration to mark the beginning of socialism. Since the transition, black, brown, red, yellow and white people have been loving each other more and more. And this has given birth to a growing number of honey tan coloured people. It's thought that one day everyone will be a honey tan colour. Cruelty to animals is a thing of the past. People still eat chickens and other types of meat, but all the meat animals are well looked after till their date with the dinner table, and all killed as humanely as possible. Zoos are a thing of the past. When someone wants to look at a giraffe, or a polar bear, or hippo, or whichever animal, they go to see them in their habitat. People still keep animals as pets. Dogs, cats and fish are the most popular. None of the animals people keep as pets seem to mind being pets. Humankind has not invented computers that can think. They remain nothing more than useful tools. All goods are made to the highest standard. There are jobs that computer machines can't do, but it's all right because people don't mind doing a few hours here and there at a mundane job. They enjoy maximum leisure time and positive production time. Man has made cities and towns and villages the best he can, the best layouts, the best materials. Cities are like brilliant large houses, which suits people because they are like one great big happy family. There are no fatalities on the roads. If you want to race, you do it on a racetrack. There are smart cars and smart roads, but the main reason there is no dangerous driving is because there are no bell ends. Many people like to move around, living a few years here, a few years there, settling down in one place in the winter of their lives. The average lifespan is 95. A lot of people make their own movies. They sometimes put actors from the 20th and 21st centuries into their films. There is technology that makes it possible to sit at your home computer and make a top movie with top special effects. Many people make their own musical instruments. Many write poems and songs. A lot of people make their own clothes and furniture and their own cars and homes. There is a common language, but most people can speak more than one. Most people know basic first aid. Many of the people of the future are fully qualified doctors. Compulsory schools are a thing of the past. The children of the future study many things and become expert at many things. The people of the future are happy and smart. They love living in a world without money. Did they even have to pay for the air in the bad old days? Asked Della. If the politicians could have found a way to tax people for breathing, you can bet your life they would have done, said Eric with a wry smile. When people went to a garage, they sometimes put air in their tyres that they had to pay for. So in that sense, they did have to pay for the air, said Blanche. They used to have a bomb that could kill everyone in the world, said Brad, with the kind of relish that only an 8-year-old boy can show at the prospect of all life on Earth being blown to smithereens. No, they didn't, said Della, who sometimes thought her brother was a very silly person. They were called nuclear bombs, said Wally. One wouldn't have been enough to kill everyone, but they had more than enough to do the job. What happened to them? Asked Della, who sometimes thought that the people of the pre-transition era were even sillier than her brother. During the transition, they were safely disposed of, said Sylvia. It lifted a dark cloud that had been hanging over the human race for over 60 years. Did nearly everything in the world cost money? Asked Della. Love and friendship and things like that were free, said Blanche, but they had to pay for almost all of the goods and services they used, medical treatment, housing, food, etc., which sometimes put a strain on love and friendship. Most of the people of the bad old days had to work long hours, from 16 to 65, doing mundane jobs just to get by, said Eric. That's how the system worked. But some people didn't have enough money to get by. Some people even had none. Unless everyone has food and houses and toys and things, the system doesn't really work. That's just common sense, said Della, who was a bright child. It did work, it just worked badly, said Wally. It split the human race into two classes, the owning class and the non-owning class. The system didn't work in the best interest of the workers, which was most of the people. And even the owning class, with all their power and money, weren't immune from the misery and danger a bad system created. The people of the bad old days were silly people, said Della. Silly, silly, silly. They couldn't have been that silly, said Sylvia. After all, they organised the transition to socialism, and now everyone enjoys maximum leisure time and positive production time. And don't forget free access to the means to live, and live well, a life for one and all, which is as good as man can make for man, thanks to those not-so-silly people, said Eric. Do you want some lemonade? Asked Brad, who had made some lemonade. Yes, please, said the old folks and Della. So, what have you learned in the last 2 weeks? Asked Blanche. Loads of stuff, said Brad and Della at the same time. Last week we stayed in Conway Castle in Wales for a few days, said Brad. We wore clothes from the 1300s and were showed how to make them. Brad looked really funny, said Della, and giggled. We made some recipes from the 14th centuries. We made food from recipes from the 14th and 15th centuries, and we learned about husbandry and the weapons they used. I didn't like the weapons. Brad hit me on the head with a mace, said Della, with a disapproving look at Brad. It was made out of foam rubber. It didn't hurt, said Brad, with a shake of his head. Me and Blanche stayed a few nights in Conway Castle in the 70s, said Wally. In 2156, there had been a vote as to whether or not to leave the castle the way it was or do it up. The vote had been for making it look like what it did back in its prime, with a few modern conveniences. What else have you learned in the last couple of weeks? Asked Sylvia, taking a swig of the very nice lemonade. Last week we went round to Uncle Bob's, Auntie Edith's, Hank's, Emma's and Floyd's house, said Della. How are they? Asked Wally. Oh, fine, fine, said Brad. Hank taught me some power chords on a guitar his dad had made him. I've learned to play a song from the bad old days called Smoke on the Water. We all went for a walk one day to the Grand Teton, and Bob told us how it was formed, said Della. And later on, we drove to the Hunland Falls, and they were ace. And the next day, me and Emma took Floyd for a walk. We nearly went as far as the Qtar Falls. Floyd chased after a squirrel. He didn't catch it, it ran up a tree. And Emma showed me some berries and some mushrooms you can eat. And Aunt Edith put the mushrooms in a spaghetti bolognese, and it tasted groovy. Orange Blossom House, 3423. Kai is 23 years old. He lives in Orange Blossom House in Japan. The year is 3423. Kai was born in America. He's not American, and nor is anybody else. Like everyone else, he thinks, my country is the world. Countries don't exist, at least not in terms of people having a national identity. All people see themselves as belonging to one people, one world. Names of countries are used only to give a rough idea of where a person is on the planet. Since the transition, cities all over the world had undergone major changes. Where once cities were built with money as part of the equation, now they were built with people's happiness and well-being as their only consideration. Cities all around the world had buildings and monuments from the pre-transition era within them, but much of the cities of the world were knocked down during the transition and built again from scratch, designed to be the best, no cowboy shit. Kai was a regular kind of guy. He lived in New York with his mum, dad and two older brothers for the first 3 years of his life. Then they all moved to a city in Kenya where they lived for 4 years. Then they lived in a mobile home, travelling all over Africa for 3 years. Then his oldest brother went to live in Denmark, and the rest of the family sailed around the Mediterranean on a yacht for 2 years. Then his other brother, went to live in Brazil, and Kai and his parents went to live in a cabin in a sparsely populated part of Canada. At 15, he decided he wanted a place of his own and moved to Scotland, where he met and became lifelong friends with a lad called Village. They lived in Edinburgh for a year, then travelled around Australia on motorbikes for 2 years, meeting and falling in love with 2 friends along the way called Sharon and Tracy. When they had had enough riding around, they decided to get a house together. They looked on the computer for empty houses and spotted Orange Blossom House in Japan. It had been built in 3054 and was covered in painted illusions. The 4 of them had lived there very happily for 3 years now. It was a sunny day, and Kai was in the garden with the pets, Millie the dog and Balls the cat. He was trying to come up with a new magic trick because he loved coming up with new magic tricks. He thought about him and Sharon having kids someday, and he thought if they had a son, they could call him Merlin, and if they had a daughter, they could call her Magic or maybe Wizzy. Any kids they had would be well entertained. Sharon could put on a pretty good puppet show. Village was a pretty good ventriloquist, and Tracy could juggle 6 balls at the same time, 7 if you included the cat. Kai thought about what he was going to cook everyone for tea. He decided he would make something from the Margaret Powell cookbook. Kai thought about what Sharon was up to. Sharon was training to become a fire officer, finding people trapped in burning buildings, evacuating people from the path of lava flows, forest fires, and all sorts of other fire-related stuff. If there was an emergency, the computer mobiles, which most people wore on their wrists, would sound the emergency call, and then all the fire officers or doctors or whoever in the local area would respond. Kai thought about what Village and Tracy were up to. In 3423, the longest bridge in the world was in China. As often as not, the bridge was painted by a fully automated bridge painting computer machine. But this year, people had decided to do it themselves, to give it a unique look. As Kai was trying to figure out a new magic trick, he found the sun was getting in his eyes. "Gonna have to put my cap on," said Kai to Millie and Balls, and headed for the house. Orange Blossom had 16 bedrooms, a swimming pool, a games room with some pool tables, dartboards, snooker tables, tennis tables, a few trampolines, and some 10-pin bowling lanes in it. A kitchen upstairs and a kitchen downstairs, a keep fit room with weights and stuff in it, a large room that could be used for roller skating or basketball or cycle speedway or five-a-side football or dancing or whatever. There were 9 mellow rooms, a library, a gallery, and half a dozen bathrooms. Kai walked into one of the mellow rooms with Millie and Balls following him. There was a TV in the room. It was a standard TV. Many standard goods were made in fully automated factories. Where a computer machine couldn't make or fully make an item, people would make it or help make it. Some jobs require people to do a lot of training. Some jobs needed next to no training. Some jobs needed people to commit to the work for an extended period of time. Other jobs people would do just for one morning or afternoon or evening, sometimes for a week or a month or whatever. People would look on the job site, and if they saw a job they fancied doing, whether it was a mundane job or not, they would press and accept the accept button. The system worked perfectly well. Everyone had their needs met, and everyone felt like their lives were successful, productive, and useful. On a whim, Kai turned the TV on. It was voice activated. "TV on," said Kai. A short film about turnips had just started. A field full of turnips was surrounded with cameras which were linked to a computer. When the computer sees that the turnips are ripe, a shed door opens and out comes a turnip gathering machine. It drives up and down the field, picking up the turnips. When it's got all the turnips, it drives out of the field and into the turnip washing machine, has a wash, then drives back into the shed and the doors close. The turnips are boxed up and sent to where they're required. No people were needed to sow or reap or box up or send the turnips on their way. "Off TV," said Kai. "Do you think my cap is in the garage?" Millie put her head to one side and looked quizzical and wagged her tail. In the garage were 2 motorbikes made by Kai and Village, 2 standard bikes, a car made by Village, a standard 5-seater car, a boat called Love made by all 4 of them, a plane made by Tracy and Sharon, and 4 bicycles made by each other. Kai's cap wasn't in the garage. He walks along the hallway, the pet still following, and comes to a grandfather clock, which had been made by the person who designed and built, with a little help from his friends, Orange Blossom House. The clock played a different tune at random on the hour. The time was 11:59 a.m, so Kai stood by the clock and waited to hear what it would play. It was "Nowhere Man" by the Beatles. Kai continued the search for his cap. The next place he looked was a mellow room. The cap wasn't in this room either, but Kai spotted a book of quotes, poems, songs, proverbs, and miscellaneous stuff that Sharon had been collecting since she was 10. Kai flicked the pages, reading things at random. We can embrace love. It's not too late. Why do we sleep instead with hate? Belief requires no suspension to see that hell is our invention. We make hell real, we stoke its fires, and in its flames our hope expires. Heaven too is merely our creation. We can grant ourselves our own salvation. All that's required is imagination. From the Book of Counted Sorrows. Conventional people are roused to fury by departure from convention, largely because they regard such departure as a criticism of themselves. Anon. You see, you can't please everyone, so you've got to please yourself. Ricky Nelson. Don't let school ruin your education. Mark Twain, 1835 to 1910. He who would teach the child to doubt, never the rotting grave get out. William Blake, 1757 to 1827. The first great gift we can bestow on others is a good example, Anon. And you think you're so clever and classless and free, but you're still fucking peasants as far as I can see. John Lennon, 1940 to 1980. Every history of creation and every traditionary account, whether from the lettered or unlettered, would, however they may vary in their opinion or belief of certain particulars, all agree in establishing one point, the unity of man. By which I mean that men are born equal and with equal natural rights, in the same manner as if posterity had been continued by creation instead of generation, the latter being only the mode by which the former is carried forward, and consequently every child born into the world must be considered as deriving its existence from nature. The world is as new to him as it was to the first man that existed, and his natural right in it is of the same kind. Thomas Paine, 1737 to 1809. The management of the affairs of the world, the business of arranging the conditions under which we live, is at present in the hand of practical, level-headed, sensible businessmen. The result: large numbers exist in perpetual poverty, a great many more periodically starve, many actually die of want, hundreds destroy themselves rather than continue to live and suffer. Robert Tressel, 1869 to 1911. So long as a system of competition in the production and exchange of the means of life goes on, the degradation of the arts will go on. And if that system is to last forever, then art is doomed, and we will surely die. That is to say, civilization will die. William Morris, 1834 to 1896. Every gun that is fired, every warship launched, every rocket fired, signifies, in a final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. The world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its labourers, the genius of its scientists, and the hopes of its children. Dwight Eisenhower, 1880 to 1969. Only very slowly and late have men come to realise that unless freedom is universal, it is only extended privilege, and none. No man is an island entire itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a manor of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. John Donne, 1571 to 1631. There are three kinds of senses: physical, common, and none. The first is used and abused by everyone. The last has become the property of infants, absurdists, and politicians. And the one in the middle, strung between the poles of the super-rational and the occult, it suffers from disuse and neglect. The world suffers along with it. Anon. Ignorance is of a peculiar nature, and once dispelled, it is impossible to re-establish it. It is not originally a thing of itself, but is only the absence of knowledge. And though man may be kept ignorant, he cannot be made ignorant. The mind, in discovering truth, acts in the same manner as it acts through the eye in discovering objects. When once any object has been seen, it is impossible to put the mind back to the same condition it was in before it saw it. Thomas Paine, 1737 to 1809. The flea and the man. A man who'd been extremely irritated by a flea caught it at last. Who are you who crawl all over my body and annoy me? A flea, sir, the insect cried. It's my way of life. Please don't destroy me. The harm I do is very small. Amused, the man replied, You die by my hand now. Great or small, a nuisance cannot be tolerated. Aesop, 629 to 560 BC. Increased means and increased leisure are the two civilizers of men. Benjamin Disraeli, 1804 to 1881. Seek pleasure that produces no pain. Reject pleasure that produces pain. Reject pleasure that prevents the enjoyment of greater pleasure or produces greater pain. Endure pain that averts greater pain or secures greater pleasure. Epicurus, 341 to 270 BC. Man cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore. Andre Gide. One of the great problems that the world has is fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts. Bertrand Russell, 1872 to 1970. Our affections and beliefs are wiser than we. The best that is in us is better than we can understand. Percy Shelley, 1792 to 1822. The liberty of the individual must be thus far limited. He must not make himself a nuisance to other people. John Stuart Mill, 1806 to 1873. The greatest friendship in the world should be that between husband and wife. Bonaventura. By all means marry. If you get a good wife, you'll become happy. If you get a bad one, you'll become a philosopher. Socrates, 469 to 399 BC. The great joy of a dog is you can make a fool of yourself with him, and not only will he not scold you, he'll make a fool of himself too. Anon. Beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken to my joyful tidings of the golden future time. Soon or late the day is coming, tyrant man shall be overthrown, and the fruitful fields of England shall be trod by beasts alone. Rings shall vanish from our noses, and harness from our back. Bit and spurs shall rust forever, cruel whips no more shall crack. Riches more than mind can picture, wheat and barley, oats and hay, clover, beans, and mangel wurzels shall be ours upon that day. Bright will shine the fields of England, purer shall its waters be. Sweeter yet shall blow its breezes on the day that sets us free. For that day we must labour, though we die before it break. Cows and horses, geese and turkeys, all must toil for freedom's sake. Beast of England, beast of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken well and spread my tidings of the golden future time. George Orwell, 1905 to 1950. The job of a socialist is to make more socialists. The World Socialist Movement. The only way to fail is not to try. A none. Kai put down Sharon's book of collected quotes, poems, songs, proverbs, and miscellaneous things, and continued looking for his cap. Where's my cap? Where's my cap? Where's my cap? He sang as he danced a little jig. Million balls wagged their tails. Kai decided to try another mellow room. He opened up the door, and there stood himself, Village, and Tracy, and Sharon with his cap on her head. Abra fucking cadabra, said Kai, and took his cap off the head of Sharon's waxwork. Sharon was 15 when she had made life-size waxworks of herself and Tracy, and last year she made waxworks of Kai and Village. He put his cap on and went back to the garden, the pets still following, and continued to try to come up with a new magic trick. When it was 5 o'clock, he went to the kitchen and started cooking tea. Sharon got home at 5:30. She came into the kitchen and kissed Kai. Hi, said Kai. You smell like you're on fire. I'm just hot for you, sugar face, said Sharon. I'm going to take a shower. Do you want to join me? Can't risk it. Things are at the critical stage. Okay, she said, kissed again and went for a shower. 10 minutes later, in walked Village and Tracy. Something smells good. Hi guys, said Kai. You both got paint in your hair, and pretty much everywhere else by the looks of things. You don't know how right you are, said Tracy. We're off to take a shower, said Village. Do you want to join us? Only if you like your apple pie well cooked. Nah, said Village, and went off to have sex in the shower. Sometimes later, after they had finished their teas, Kai said, Who wants a game of Connect 4? And then the phone rang. Engage call, said Kai. Hello. Hi, Kai. How you doing? Are the other three there? Yeah, said the other three. I'm fine, Fidor, said Kai. But tell me, why do I get the feeling you're not far away? It must be because you're a magician. I've got my latest movie with me. I think you're going to like it. Kai and Fyodor had been friends since they were little kids. 2 years ago, Fyodor's wife had died in a skiing accident, leaving him to bring up their twin girls, Abba and Blondie, who were 4. Have you got the kids with you? Asked Kai. No, they're with Mum and Dad in Ireland. Pity, said Sharon and Tracy at the same time. What's the movie called? Asked Village. A Family of Werewolves. Fyodor loved making films. This latest one had taken him 2 months. The technology which allowed you to make what once would have been considered a blockbuster film from your own armchair had been invented. Fyodor often put dead old stars in his films. John Wayne, Kirk Douglas, Clint Eastwood, Katharine Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe and Goldie Hawn were some of his favourites. When Fyodor arrived, he said, Man, I'm hungry. What's there to eat? There's apple pie, said Kai. That'll do very nicely to start with. The 5 friends talked for hours and then watched A Family of Werewolves. After it was finished, Village said, "I thought it was great, especially that bit where Kai gets his head ripped off." "I like the bit where Village gets slapped by Megan, Goldie Hawn, for making improper suggestions," said Tracy. "I thought the part where Abba and Blondie land the plane was funny as fuck," said Sharon. "I loved it," said Kai. "Scared the shit out of me. It was the same person singing all the songs on the soundtrack. Gene Vincent. He was a rock and roll legend," said Firedor. "I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Is there any more of that pie left?" "There sure is," said Kai, who was a regular kind of guy. A Likely Story 39.99. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang! The Houses of Parliament have just been blown up. It's 8 p.m. on the 5th of November, 39.99. A vote was taken as to whether or not to keep making repairs to the Houses of Parliament or blow them up and let off a load of fireworks. Zeb and his 9-year-old son Luke stood eating jacket potatoes with beans, admiring the beautiful firework-filled sky. "Cool," said Luke. "Sweet," said Zeb. "Are you ready for a drink?" Luke finished the last of his spud and nodded his head. Zeb took a flask from his backpack, and they both had a nice mug of Bovril and enjoyed the bonfire. After the entertainment was over, they went back to their apartment by monorail. The next morning, they went to a gallery that housed paintings from all of the last 40 centuries. Zeb didn't have a favourite, but Luke did. It was Howell's Gypsy Girl. After a couple of hours in the gallery, they went for a wander round the Babylon Gardens to marvel at the vast variety of flowers and strawberries. "Do you want to go horse riding?" asked Zeb. "Nah," said Luke, "but you go. I'm going to head back to the apartment and play some computer games. After that, I'll take Harvey for a walk." "Sound. See you later. See you later, Dad." Zeb and Luke and Zeb's other kid, Laura, who was 6, had lived in London for 3 years. Laura was with her grandparents from her mother's side, adventuring in the rainforest of Argentina. The social contract part of marriage was a thing of the past, but most people met someone, fell in love, and shared their lives together. Zeb had loved Cora, Luke and Laura's mum, very much, but unfortunately she had died 4 years ago in a hang gliding accident. If you fall off your bicycle and break your arm, or a shark ate your leg, you couldn't just put your arm or leg stump in a vat of magic liquid and make it all better. There are no vats of magic liquid. Establishing socialism hadn't created paradise, only the closest the human race would ever get to it. Zeb is 30 years old. The average lifespan in this millennium was 95. On average, people had 2 kids. Abortions were very rare indeed. There were sometimes abortions for medical reasons, and sometimes simply because the woman didn't want to have a baby. 26 this century. The days when a woman would spend weeks wondering, should I, shouldn't I, have an abortion, and then deciding to have one when it was too late, and finding after a month or 2 that she couldn't cope, and bagging the baby up and throwing it in a wheelie bin, were long gone. No baby would ever again see its bedroom filled with no toys, no cute pictures on the walls, and no love. No baby would ever again find no milk in its mother's breast because the woman is starving to death. No baby would ever again find a pillow pressed over its face because its parents hope to make some money from a life insurance policy. No baby would ever again grow up to believe cruel and selfish is the way people are, so I will be like them. No baby would ever again grow up with a prize bellend for a mother and a prize bellend for a father. Back at the apartment, Luke sat at the computer and typed random select computer games from the 20th century. For an hour or so, he played Road Rash, Micro Machines, Sunset Riders, and Zombies. Do you want to go for a walk, Furface? Said Luke. Harvey the dog wagged his tail. Come on then, you great furry pile of idiot. Luke put Harvey's collar on, that his dad had made, and a standard lead, and headed for the great outdoors. They ran up hills and down hills, over streams, and in and out of trees. Stay! Harvey stayed. Those dog classes they had been going to were definitely working. He put the lead on. A woman came on over and said, Hello, you've got your dog well trained. Thanks, said Luke. We've been going to dog school. The woman's dog, Tina, and Harvey sniffed each other and seemed to like what they smelt, so the owners let them off their leads to play. Luke and the woman walked and talked for a while, then went their separate ways. When they got back to the apartment, Luke took off Harvey's lead and collar and said, In a while, crocodile, and headed for the fun fair. The smell of doughnuts hit his nose, closely followed by the smell of chips, hot dogs, candy floss, and bumper cars. He made his way over to a roller coaster ride called the Cosmic Rocket. The ride began 2,000 feet from the ground and went like shit off a shovel and lasted 8 minutes. In the elevator, on the way up to the start of the ride, Luke got chatting to a couple of lads his age called Terry and Jake. After the ride was over, they started to pal about together. Bullying was a thing of the past. As the three boys walked along, an ice cream van stopped near them, so they all got an ice cream. The ice cream vans were driverless. A man was in the van handing out the ice creams just because he felt like it. When there was no one handing out the ice creams, people just helped themselves. What sort of things do you like doing? Asked Luke. Let me see, said Terry. I like archaeology, cross-country running, cooking, dinghy racing, cyclocross, cross-country skiing, geochronology, making things out of clay, jet skiing, whitewater canoeing, speedboats, corral racing, and making cartoons. I like, said Jake, psychedelic art, scuba diving, tennis, ethnohistory, playing the bagpipes, flying planes, archery, boxing, ice skating, proto-history, motocross, ski jumping, and rowing. What you into? Asked Terry. Well, said Luke, I like snowmobiles, cycle speedway, devil take the hindmost, neurology, golf, catamaraning, sail skiing, go-kart racing, walking me dog, and butterfly watching. People studied and enjoyed doing a wide variety of things. There were no longer compulsory schools. Children weren't forced to try to learn shit they didn't give a shit about. They were allowed to choose what they wanted to learn. An education of choice worked very well. Let's leave Luke and his newfound friends and see what Zeb has been up to. Zeb got a bike from a bicycle stand and cycled 10 miles to the great outdoors. When he got to a field of horses, he left the bike at a bike stand and walked into the field. He found a horse he liked the look of, made the sort of noises people make who know what they're doing with horses make, led the horse to the stables, saddled up, jumped on, and rode off. They raced up hills and down hills, over streams, and in and out of trees. After a while, Zeb slowed, red rum, to a trot. A woman on another horse was coming towards him. When she got close enough, Zeb could not believe his eyes, for it was none other than a woman he had seen on no less than 6 other occasions. The first time he had seen her was in a cafeteria in Milan. 8 years ago. She had accidentally dropped a tray of food close to where he was sat with his wife and baby Luke. He had picked up a fallen donut and handed it to her. The second time he saw her was about a year later playing golf on a course in Dundee. He had been waiting for a friend to tee off when he had the feeling that he had seen the woman they were waiting behind before somewhere. It took him till the 18th hole to remember. The third time he saw her, he had no problem remembering where he'd seen her before. The third time he saw her was in China 6 months later. She was giving a lecture on the life and times of Genghis Khan. The fourth time he saw her, she was swimming in the Arabian Nights Swimming Centre in Kabul. He was with Luke and baby Laura. The fifth time he had seen her was a year later in a hot air balloon over Paris. He was surprised to see, when he got his binoculars focused, that the woman in another hot air balloon 500 yards away was her. He jumped up and down, waving like a madman, and she had waved back somewhat more calmly. The sixth time he saw her was last New Year's Eve. She had been doing the polka mazurka to the 1980s classic Nelly the Elephant at a party in Moscow. And now here she was again, looking as beautiful as she had done on all the other occasions. He realised he must have been staring at her and looking like a bit of a prick. "Are you all right? Have we met?" she asked. "I'm fine," said Zeb, and then told her where he'd seen her before. When he had finished, she said, "Well, fuck a duck," and they both laughed. Ruby was her name. She was 29, single with no kids. They rode along together, talking about this and that. "I'm ready for some food," said Ruby. "Would you like to join me?" "I'd love to," said Zeb. After they had sorted the horses, they went to a cafeteria. They got some food and went and sat down. "Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?" asked Ruby. "Yeah," said Zeb. "I'm a level 2 elf." "I'm a level 5 wizard. There's a game on tonight. Would you like to play with me?" "Very much. Although I must warn you, the last time I played, I got turned into a newt." "I got better." They had a lot of fun playing Dungeons and Dragons and scored enough points to advance Zeb to another level. He was never turned into a newt again. White Dove, 4786, April 40th. Dear Diary, what a day it's been. It's been just like a dream. I am 13 today. Happy birthday to me. In this year, 4786. Mum gave me this beautiful diary she made for me. Thanks, Mum and Dad and Big Sis. We've lived in Nebraska for just over a year now. Mum and Dad and Kate think it's the best place they've ever lived, and I do too. It's nearly 11 p.m. After I've written this, I'm going to bed. Me and Lupin went to the World of Mythology Centre. It was a lot of fun. We had Knickerbocker glories that were the best I've ever tasted. As we walked around the Mythology Centre, I had this fantasy about bringing a girl of about my age from before the transition, who liked to keep a diary, into our world, to show her that things had panned out really well for humankind. The horror of countless wars were a long time past, and peace on earth had reigned supreme for over 2,500 years. I finished making my dress last night. When Lupin saw it, he said I looked like a Red Indian. He sang me a song from the pre-transition called Running Bear and started calling me White Dove. So I started calling him Chief Joseph. He didn't know who Chief Joseph was, so I told him he was the chief of the Nez Perces, one of the greatest of all Indian generals, who defeated 3 US forces sent against his few followers. Lupin seems to have a thing about caves at the moment. He's been down 7 in the last month. Let me see if I can remember them all. Slavlansky Raj Caves in Czechoslovakia, Sanoa Caves in Zimbabwe, Chara Caves in Morocco, Darak Caves in Spain, Baradala Caves in Hungary, Arman Cave in France, and the Gar Pardu Caves in Iran. We've made plans to go down a cave next week. We're not sure which one yet, but Lupin thinks we should go down the Grotto of Han Caves in Belgium. White Dove is now very sleepy, Dove. Good night, dear diary. April 31st. Me and Dad went down a sewer. We were inspecting things. It was a shitty job, but until a computer machine can be programmed with common sense, or indeed any sense, there will always be some shitty jobs that people will have to do. We wore breathing masks, and I put some perfume Lupin had made for me inside mine. We wandered around for about 3 hours and didn't find anything amiss. May 1st. Went to the old people's village, cooked some food, vacuumed some carpets, and pushed Elsie around in her wheelchair. She told me that when she was younger, she was in a band called Looking Glass. I checked them out on the computer and they were really good. Elsie sang and played guitar. I'm pretty good at playing the piano, even if I do say so myself. And Lupin plays a mean flute. Maybe we should start a band. I've thought of a good name, White Doves. May 2nd. Me and Mum and Dad helped Uncle Albert build his house. I love bricklaying, it's so relaxing, and driving a JCB is always good for a laugh. This evening, I went to another oceanography class. I've decided that when I grow up, I want to be a dolphin. May 5th. Just got back from Belgium. It's 11 p.m. Had a great time. We met the man who would have been King of England. Lupin's little brother Paddy, who's 9, went with us. When we were in the Grotto of Han, which was brilliant, Lupin told us this poem. One day, feeling oh so brave, I went walking in a cave. Now I fear I can't get out. I'll die in here, I have no doubt. I'll mould and turn to slimy bone, here where the sun has never shone, where I lie in darkness all alone, here in my tomb of ancient stone. Remember me before you dare to journey into midnight's lair. Remember me and what I write. Here lies one who loved the light, but he was curious and brave. He went walking in a cave. About 5 minutes after he told us the poem, Paddy fell over and broke his arm. And that's when we met the man who would have been the King of England. His name is Richard, and his wife is called Fanny. They are both doctors, so we went back to their house and they sorted Paddy's arm out, and we all stayed there for the night. Richard showed us his family tree. If socialism hadn't happened, Richard would now be the King of England. Interest in the royal family faded during the transition. Less and less people lined the streets waving little flags as some royal person went past in a gold carriage wearing a silly hat called a crown. When the little flag wavers stopped turning up to the show was over. Richard Windsor was pleased that socialism had been established, for the obvious reasons, but also because it meant that him and his wife wouldn't be known as King Dick and Queen Fanny. Till the next time, good night, dear diary. What matters? 14/4/72. Lee was listening to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds album when there was a knock at the door. He opened the door. Hi, Mandy. Do you want a brew? Yes, please. Have you been up to anything? Just chilling out. What about you? Me and Andy went canoeing round Crater Lake yesterday, said Mandy. And last night we kipped on Wizard Island. It was ace. I've made some biscuits, said Lee. Do you want to try them? The last ones tasted like shit. These ones taste much better. They couldn't taste any bleeding worse. Lee went and made Mandy a brew and got the biscuits. The summer sun is fading as the year grows old, and darker days are drawing near. My life will be forever autumn, now you're not here. Lee and Justin sang together. Do you think people will ever make intelligent computers? Asked Mandy. I don't even think we'll make stupid computers, said Lee. Computers were invented over 12,000 years ago, and whilst they can be put to more uses now than they could then, they remain no more than useful tools. If people ever create a program that leads to a computer becoming self-aware, with the potential to become as smart as us, they will find, I believe, that they have made a big mistake. But like I say, I don't even think we'll make computers smart enough to be called stupid, let alone intelligent. These biscuits are really nice, said Mandy. What do you think will happen to people in terms of physical and social evolution? Lee took a swig of water and lit a spliff. People from now until the end of time, 3 billion years, won't change. Humankind's physical evolution is over. This is as good as it gets. Social evolution. There's no further we can go. We have reached the summit of man's social evolution. We can't be any more loving. There isn't a world social system that could give us more, make life easier, make life fairer than the one we have. The aim of mankind is no longer to establish a system that works in man's best interest. The aim now is to keep the status quo till the end of time, which is when the sun gets too hot for people to live on Earth. Do you think people will find a way to extend the lifespan of humans beyond the average of 95 years? Asked Mandy. No, said Lee. Some things are simply not possible. War of the Worlds came to an end. Put the point on, said Mandy. This is the town and these are the people. This is the town where the people all play. This is the town and these are the people. That's the way they wanted it. That's the way it's going to stay. Lee and Mandy sang together, and then Lee put the point on. Do you think people will ever set foot on another habitable planet? Asked Mandy. Yes, but no one from this planet will. We're too far away. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. I think there's an infinite number of humans. Some will live on planets which are near enough for them to travel from one habitable planet to another, but only if the planets are very close. Sadly, or otherwise, we're too far from the nearest habitable planet. If people are lucky, they'll get 3 billion years on Earth. But when it's over for man on Earth, it's over. Hopefully, people will celebrate every April 14th till the end of time, a celebration to mark the implementation of a system which has led to billions of people so far going from their cradles to their graves, never knowing the misery of poverty, the horror of war, or the terror and fear of crime. Love Everyone on Earth Day isn't just a kick-ass party and a celebration of socialism being established. It's also a day we give thanks to our brothers and sisters of the 21st century for having the courage, the imagination, and the good sense to implement socialism. If man reaches the end of time, then for all that time, the people of the 21st century will hold a special place in the heart of man. The people of the 21st century, they came, they saw, they conquered the capitalist system. And probably not a minute too soon. It doesn't matter that humans will only ever have an average lifespan of 95 years. It doesn't matter that we will never set foot on another habitable planet. For thousands of years now, we have kept the status quo. Billions have enjoyed the best life man can make for man. So long as we maintain the status quo and keep all the brothers and sisters fed, watered and happy, for all the time we exist, then we would have got right all that really matters. Page 74 of 118, Part 3. My Thoughts and Hopes. We have it in our power to build the world all over again. Thomas Paine, 1737 to 1809. 1. World Without Money movement, object and declaration of principles. 2. Socialism. 3. Capitalism. 4. The golden age of capitalism, a fool's paradise. 5. Democracy. 6. Poverty. 7. Workers and work. 8. A workers' declaration. 9. Infinity theory. 10. From World War III to socialism. 1. World Without Money movement, object and declaration of principles. Object: to establish a world social system based upon the common ownership and democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth by and in the best interest of the human race. To end poverty, war, and most, if not all, crime. To give everyone a high standard of living. To give everyone free access to goods and services. And to give everyone maximum leisure time and good work time. Declaration of Principles. 1. That society, as at present constituted, is based upon the ownership of the means of living, i.e., land, factories, railways, etc., by the 1% or the only class, and the consequent enslavement of the workers by whose labour alone wealth is produced. The current world system doesn't work in the best interest of the human race, and never will. If we stick with it, there'll be another world war, and we don't want that. No sirree, Bob. 2. That in society, therefore, there is an antagonism of interest, manifesting itself as a class struggle between those who possess but do not produce, and those who produce but do not possess. 1% of the human race pretty much own all the wealth, whereas the workers should own all the wealth by virtue of the fact they made it. 3. That this antagonism can be abolished only by the emancipation of the workers from the domination of the owning class, by the conversion into the common property of society of the means of production and distribution, and their democratic control by all the people. The 99% need to act as one, organise themselves, make a plan to peacefully dismantle capitalism and implement socialism. It's for the best. 4. That as in the order of social evolution, the workers are the last to achieve their freedom. The emancipation of the workers will involve the emancipation of all mankind, without distinction of race or sex. The workers were pissed upon back in Pharaoh's day. The puppet politicians are still persuading workers that the warm, wet stuff trickling down their backs is only rain. 5. That this emancipation must be the work of the workers themselves. The power to make the world work in the best interest of the workers is in the hands of the workers, but only if the workers of the world unite. 6. That as the machinery of government, including the armed forces of the nation, exists only to conserve the monopoly by the owning class of the wealth taken from the workers must organise consciously and politically for the conquest of the powers of government, national and local, in order that this machinery, including these forces, may be converted from an instrument of oppression into the agent of emancipation and the overthrow of privileged, aristocratic and plutocratic. Change from a money-orientated society to one of free access won't be a teddy bear's picnic. 7. That as all political parties are but the expression of class interest, and as the interest of the workers are diametrically opposed to the interests of all sections of the owning class. The parties seeking the workers' emancipation must be hostile to every other party. Not hostile in the "you're gonna get your fucking heads kicked in" sense of the word, it's just a battle of ideas. 8. The World Without Money movement, of which I am currently the only member, calls on the workers of the world to abolish capitalism, establish socialism, and let the good times roll. The WWMM enters the field of political action, determined to wage war against all political parties, whether alleged Labour or avowedly capitalist, and calls upon the members of the family of man to muster under its banner to the end that a speedy termination may be wrought to the system which deprives them of the fruits of their labour, and that poverty may give place to comfort, privilege to equality, and wage slavery to freedom. Tom Paine said, "Whatever is my right as a man is the right of another, and it becomes a duty to guarantee as well as to possess." Everyone has to do what they can to help. If all you can do to help is vote for socialism if or when you get the chance, then vote. 2. Socialism. We should all be having a great time, and will do if we organise to the best of our ability. All of us can have good food, clean drinking water, the best infrastructure, the best healthcare, the best goods and services. Substandard food, water, infrastructure, healthcare, goods and services will belong to yesterday. If we establish a system that works in the best interest of the human race, we will create the conditions for the human race to become the best they can be. Scumbags and bellends will belong to yesterday. I saw a lecture on TV a few years ago, and this Professor Boffin bloke, Hans, had done the maths and calculated that the Earth could meet the needs sustainably for up to 12 billion people at any given time. I don't see poverty, war, or even crime as inevitable. If you agree with the object and declaration of principles, then why not make the case for socialism, a bright future, in songs and poems, books, both fiction and non-fiction, in movies and documentaries? The average lifespan for today's Englishman is 78. If I live a full span, I'll die in the year 2050. If the workers of the world unite sooner rather than later, then poverty and war will give way to abundance and peace in my own lifetime. It's in our power to make the world great for everyone. If we organise to the best of our ability, it will be so. Look at what the human race has achieved, despite always having a system that works in the best interest of the few instead of all. The workers of any country will only enjoy the full benefits from the fruits of their collective labour when the workers of the world organise the common ownership of resources and the democratic control of those resources. Capitalism makes poverty, war, crime, and the destruction of the planet inevitable. If someone can make money from chopping down a rainforest, then they will. If someone can make more money from an animal that lives and dies in inhumane conditions than one looked after well till its date with the dinner table, then the animal will suffer the cruelty of the inhumane conditions. If someone can make money from selling weapons of mass destruction, then they will encourage governments to go to war, kill, 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 kill innocent men, women and children. It's not just the people making the profit or the workers who destroy the rainforest or is involved in cruel animal husbandry or the soldiers who kill innocents who are to blame. Capitalism makes us all accessories in the rape of the environment, the animal cruelty and the killing of poor defenceless human beings. Making money is what the money system is all about, even if it comes at the cost of the annihilation of the species. Many of you have got it into your heads that we can't radically change the way the affairs of the world are ordered. If enough people can't be persuaded that socialism is the way forward for humankind, then we are all doomed. And in the run-up to our annihilation, we will go on suffering, directly or indirectly, the misery of poverty, the horror of war, and the terror and fear of crime. If, on the other hand, enough people can have their negative and pessimistic attitude turned on by rock and roll socialism, then we will go forth and build a beautiful world for one and all. We can knock down the ghettos, the slums, and shitholes and hellholes and wipe them from the face of the earth. We can make all the villages, towns, and cities fucking great, man. We can get rid of all the crap and just keep the good stuff. World without money? Yes, we can. Yes, we can organise better than we have ever done before. The means of production and distribution can become the common ownership of all. The wealth the family of man create together can be shared and enjoyed equally and freely. For all the brothers and all the sisters, it will no longer be a question of how much money is in the national purse. Money governments often use to try to make a crazy system look normal, but instead is a thing in man's best interest. The rallying cry of the American Revolution was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The rallying cry of the French Revolution was liberty, equality, and fraternity. The rallying cry of the Socialist Revolution is free access to goods and services for all, maximum leisure time and positive work time for all, and the liberty to pursue any crazy motherfucker shit they want, so long as it doesn't cause hassle to anyone else. If we organise to the best of our ability, I think poverty will give way to plenty, war to peace on earth, competition to cooperation in the production and distribution in the means to live, fear of outsiders to the understanding that we are all the same, ignorance to knowledge, hate to love, and so on and so forth. The answers to our shared problems as workers are difficult to see. The answers seem to be hidden from our sight, but only till they are seen in the right light. Things will become clearer with each step we take down the road to destination socialism. Once socialism is implemented, it will be crystal clear that mankind's future will be a good one. As is so often the case with solutions, they will seem obvious in retrospect. 3. Capitalism. What do I mean by capitalism? Capitalism is designed for the purpose of making money. This creates rich and poor. Capitalism puts profit before need. There is nothing wrong under capitalism in either the notion or the reality of one rich man who has never worked a day in his life, having inherited at birth enough money to live a life of luxury 1,000 times over, eating well again today, whilst 1,000 poor children starve to death. Capitalism is bad. It's best to try to keep things simple. 1%, the owning class, never do a day's work in their lives, and yet they own the means to life. The non-owning class, the worker, creates all the wealth, and yet doesn't own the means of production and distribution. Under capitalism, there will always be poverty and war, and crime will remain the daily norm instead of the exception to the rule. Capitalism is poverty. Capitalism is war, is crime, is ugly, warped, and insane. Capitalism is what we get until enough workers are conscious that there is a much better world social system and that the change from one to the other is not only desirable but possible. If life was a 7-chunk chocolate bar, the owning class would all live 7-chunk lives. The majority of the workers would live a fifth or 1/4 of a chunk lives. Who does all the chocolate belong to? The worker does all the work to get the ingredients to the factory table. It could be argued that cows do some of the work, but it's the worker who keeps the cows in tip-top condition. The worker puts the ingredients together in the factory, producing all the world's chocolate bars. The worker lays every railway track and makes every road to get the bars of chocolate to the villages, towns and cities. Villages, towns and cities built by the worker, using Earth's raw materials, thank you kindly, Mother Earth, taken from the ground. So who does the chocolate belong to? Not the worker. All the chocolate belongs to the few who own the land where the ingredients were taken from, the few who own the factories where the chocolate bar was produced, and the few who own the means to distribute by rail, by water, by air, by road, the bars of chocolate. When it's the worker who produced and distributed all the chocolate, who should the chocolate belong to? The worker makes all the useful things in this world to profit a tiny, non-producing, non-distributing, owning class. They get a life of luxury, the worker gets a wage. Capitalism benefits the owning class to the detriment of the human race, but primarily to the 99%. The workers of the world should own the world by virtue of the fact they made it. The law that says that it's all above board for the means of life, the means of production and distribution, to belong to the 1% needs to be changed. I don't blame the owning class for capitalism. It seems to me to be an inevitable step along man's social evolution. After money was conceived around 5,000 years ago, making things for use stopped, and a competition in the production and distribution of commodities with the aim of making monetary profit began. A small number of people whose intelligence lent itself to the acquisition of making money became rich. They found that their wealth enabled them to control the resources and own the means to live. This gave them power. The power quickly went to their heads, and they became royal knobheads. They handed their riches to their children generation after generation, fostering a sense of entitlement. Their wealth gave them the power and the belief that they had the right to make up laws that worked in their interest, meaning that they could reap the fruits of the labour of others, and that was okay. Their wealth meant that they could pay people to beat up anyone who did not agree with this state of affairs. These bully boys would in time go on to become the police. The bully boys, who were paid by a rich man to try to steal the wealth of another rich man, would go on to become the army. Capitalism 2018 sees a tiny minority with the legitimate right to own the earth, and everyone else with the legitimate right to suck it up. Capitalism can be seen as a game, like Monopoly. Capitalism is cruel and immoral and nasty and terrifying, so not much like Monopoly. The aim of the game is to make as much money as a player can. Winners own the means to live. Losers work to make ends meet. Capitalism only works in the interest of the owning class within the parameters of the game. When life is looked at from its broadest viewpoint, it can be seen that capitalism is not in anyone's interest, because capitalism makes a third world war inevitable. Game over. Capitalism can also be seen as a disease that turns a tiny minority of people into parasites. They live lives of luxury off the backs of the workers. The parasites are not to blame for the disease. They're not even immune to all the symptoms the disease creates. Money protects, but not absolutely. Some of the parasites are monsters, as indeed some of the workers are. Being a parasite doesn't make one a monster. Most of us, owning class and non-owning class alike, are decent people. Most parasites look on with as much horror at what the disease does to the body of man in the form of poverty, war and crime as the workers do. There are many differences between the two classes, not least of which is the worker has to live with the stress and fear that he or she can be maimed or broken or killed by poverty, both directly and indirectly, whereas the parasite can only feel the world's pain indirectly. The only way to get rid of the disease, and therefore its symptoms, is to abolish capitalism and implement socialism. The class war is a battle of ideas. No one is to blame for there currently existing two classes of people. The owning class has got nothing to lose by helping to implement socialism. Apart from your privilege, power and wealth, you have everything to gain. Equality, true democracy and free access to goods and services. 4. The golden age of capitalism. The advocates of capitalism believe the system is working because the standard of living is better now for most people in the developed countries than it was 60 years ago. And they believe it will go on working, that's to say, go on improving the standard of living until such a time as everyone enjoys a good life. They believe the system is not working as well as it could, not because there is anything inherently wrong with capitalism, but because some people are not willing to do their fair share of the work. And because politicians are great persuaders, they have managed to convince, to a greater or lesser extent, most of the people on the planet that what they say is true. The politicians have many tools in their workbox with which to dupe the public, not least of which is the media. The duped public read the daily bog roll of their choice and watch the capitalist news channels and are persuaded that the reason they are hungry or homeless or suffering any one of 1,000 privations is not because 1% of the people on the planet own the means to life, but is instead because some people are too lazy to get off their asses and get a job, or it's because the government are letting too many foreigners into the country, or it's because the party in power are incompetent and corrupt, or it's because of drugs or general human stupidity. The advocates of capitalism do not believe there's a fundamental flaw in the system that makes people selfish or lazy or dishonest or drug dependent or stupid. And the duped public not only quietly submit, for the most part, to this existing state of things, but defend it and oppose and ridicule any suggestion to alter it. The advocates of capitalism are either piss takers or they genuinely believe the system is the best. They have persuaded themselves that capitalism is the best system human wisdom can devise. The advocates of capitalism credit the system with all but eradicating dire poverty from the developed countries. It seems to me that advances in technology is the reason why dire poverty has been all but eradicated in the developed countries. The human race took a big step down the road of modernity in the 1750s with the start of the Industrial Revolution. Since then, many steps, big and small, have been taken. basic human rights, freedom of speech, the invention of the train, the invention of electricity, the invention of the phone, cures for many of the deadly diseases, etc. Life for people in the USA has been easier/better since the 1950s, for the English since the 1960s, for the Chinese since the 1970s, and for all the developed countries since some time between the 1950s and now. Life isn't a bed of roses for the majority in the developed countries. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, life for the majority in developed countries is not nearly so hard as it was prior to the 1950s. Technology, fairer laws, cures for deadly diseases, greater workers' rights have made life easier/better now than it was 60 years ago. This golden age of capitalism is a fool's paradise. It may last another 60 years, but the way things are today is about as good as it's going to get under capitalism. Some people think capitalism will one day go tits up, whereas I think capitalism has always been tits up. It's just the degree that's varied. 5. Democracy. Winston Churchill said, "No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time." Politicians make a great song and dance about democracy. About 60% of the countries in the world have democratically elected governments. With few exceptions to the rule, the people living in democratic countries are more prosperous than people living in non-democratic countries. Under socialism, democracy would all be well and good. Capitalism makes a mockery of democracy. I imagine the people in every country in the world that has democracy are in a similar situation as the British. In Britain, come election time, there are 5 parties that always get either millions of votes or thousands of votes. They are the Conservative Capitalist Party, the Labour Capitalist Party, the Liberal Capitalist Party, the UKIP Capitalist Party, and the Green Capitalist Party. Whether a party calls themselves right-wing or left-wing, they are all the same bird. None of the world's political parties, apart from those which are a part of the World Socialist Movement, want to change the system. Tom Paine said, "Many things in a government appear to be the reverse of what they are said to be. The Parliament, imperfectly and capriciously elected as it is, nevertheless, supposed to hold the national purse in trust for the nation. But in the manner in which a government is constructed, it is like a man being both mortgagor and mortgagee. And in the case of misapplication of truth, it is the criminal sitting in judgment upon himself. If those who vote the supplies are the same persons who receive the replies when voted, and are to account for the expenditure of those supplies to those who voted them, it is themselves accountable to themselves, and the comedy of errors concludes with the pantomime of hush. Neither the government nor the opposition will alter it. The system is the common hack which each mounts upon. It is like what the country people call ride and tie. You ride a little way, and then I." The King of France at the time of the French Revolution wasn't a bad bloke. They didn't have to chop his head off. They could have left it where it was. The politicians around the world today aren't bad people, for the most part. We don't need to line them up against the wall and shoot the bastards. They can all go and crawl back under whichever rock they crawled out from. 6. Poverty. Under the existing system of society, but a very few people, no matter how well off they may be, can be certain that they or their children will not eventually come to one, and even those who think they are secure themselves find their happiness diminished by the knowledge of the poverty and misery that surrounds them on every side. Extract from The Ragged Trousered Philanthropist by Robert Tressel, 1869 to 1911. Shit will continue to happen whilst good people take the wrong steps to stop it, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions. For as long as there is capitalism, there will be poverty. Poverty is inevitable under capitalism. Politicians make great speeches full of cunning phrases intended to hoodwink the voters. The world's governments, be they democratic or dictatorships, are masters of misdirecting the workers from seeing where the cause of their problems really lie. The politicians have phony conversations about poverty, phony debates on its cause. Tinkering with capitalism, tweaking capitalism, reforms within the capitalist system ultimately will not bring about the kind of world people want, a poverty-free world. And any reform that is beneficial to workers or to society more broadly is never truly safe from being reversed. Up to 12 billion people can be fed, watered and given the means to be happy if the Professor Boffin bloke, Hans, did the maths right. Today, nearly all of the 7 billion people on the planet live in either relative poverty or dire poverty. It's not a lack of resources that's the cause of poverty. Then it must be, if it's not a lack of resources that's the cause of poverty, then it must be because there is something fundamentally wrong with capitalism. For over 100 years, we have had the ability to provide everyone with the means to a good life. Yet millions of people have starved to death, on top of which we had suffered the horror of 2 world wars. My beautiful 7 billion brothers and sisters, it's time we took the bull by the horns. Let's put an end to this insane capitalist system. 7. Workers and work. The workers make up 99% of the people of the world. If you don't own vast areas of land, big production and distribution, you're a worker. It doesn't matter if you're a small child, in prison, unemployed but looking for work, or a dull bum who doesn't want to be anything but a dull bum. Workers, the ones who actually work, make the world. They work to make a living. Work so their families can eat. Work until they die. Work till they get a cheap watch and a small pension and told to get lost. Work jobs they love, they like, they hate. Work when their backs are breaking. Work when their mind is aching. Work themselves stupid. Work themselves mental. Work hard. Work easy. Take any work they can get to pay the bloody bills. Do jobs they don't have the temperament for. Slap an old person round the head. Work slow. Get free parking. Go to go. Work fast. Deadline to meet. Oh no, made a mistake. Baby's dead at your feet. Work so other workers will respect you. Work all the overtime you can. Still not enough. Pack your bags. Back on the street again. Work for a wage. Work to profit the only class. Nature has not provided ready-made all the things necessary for the life and happiness of mankind. In order to obtain those things, we have to work. Apart from those few people with a strange affliction, people don't mind working. It's the problems that manifest themselves under capitalism with relation to work that gets the workers down. I haven't a fucking clue how man organises the way we work to the best of our collective ability. I'm just sure there is a best way and we can find it. The aim of working would be radically different under socialism. Workers would make things for use, not for profit. Workers will work to meet man's needs, not to profit a parasitic class. Under socialism, we will no longer produce substandard goods. no longer provide second-rate services, there would be no point. The workers of the world want maximum leisure time and positive production time or work time for everyone. Computer machines or robots are not doing all the work they can. Under socialism, robots would be working their shiny metal asses off. A job well done by the human race is one that sees everyone with the means to be happy. 8. A workers' declaration. I hope one day there is a workers' declaration that goes something like this. We, the workers of the world, declare all the raw materials of earth, the means of production and distribution, the means to a good life, to be ours. The world is no longer owned by the non-producing class. The earth no longer belongs to the 1%. Today, the world belongs to the human race. The fruits of the labours we, the producers of goods, produce are ours. We, the workers, understand that capitalism doesn't work for us, and all the reforms in the world would never make it work for us. We, the producing class, we, workers of the world, understand that socialism is a system that is best for us, and for all the animals, the oceans, the atmosphere, the earth. We are now the owners of planet Earth. We are the masters of this beautiful world. So much of the workers' labour was wasted yesterday. We put a stop to that nonsense in a non-violent worldwide revolution. We will never again waste the raw materials. No more will we waste our labour, our lives, our time, our genius, our industry, our potential, our love. In everything we produce for ourselves, we will produce nothing but what our best endeavour can produce. Everyone will have the means to enjoy a good life. We, the workers of the world, with the right ideas, have conquered the capitalist system. We have dismantled and abolished capitalism and established a system of society based upon the common ownership and democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth by and in the best interest of the human race. We, the workers of the world, build every building, lay every railway track, bake every pie. This world is ours by virtue of the fact we make it. We, the workers of the world, hereby declare that from this day forth our labour will be given to meet our needs, a world we can all enjoy, and our children and their children and their children and their children, until Mother Earth can sustain her children no more. Until that day comes, we, the workers of the world, will make this world, if not paradise, then as near as makes no difference. 9. Infinity theory. It's unlikely that anyone will ever seriously describe me as an expert or professor or doctor of anything. But, for what it's worth, here is my infinity theory. There are an infinite number of Earth-type planets. Every species that has gone extinct on Earth has only ceased to exist on Earth. The T-Rex, for example, lives on an infinite number of other planets. Every species that has ever existed is alive and well on an infinite number of planets, always has been and always will be. There are an infinite number of humans who have a very similar character to you, humans who look a lot like you, people with the same name as yours. Say your name out loud. An infinite number of people are saying your name out loud right now. You are the only you that has ever existed. In some cases, thank fuck for that, or ever will. If you are a good person, my hope is that you stay that way and have a long and happy life. Whether you are decent or a scumbag, you are unique. Humans are the most intelligent species in the whole of infinity, and yet capable of the greatest stupidity. Humans on every planet that have developed the means to their own destruction have followed the same path to reach that point. They learn how to make fire, they invent the wheel, they invent the written word, they invent electricity, they invent the nuclear bomb. Once they invent the nuclear bomb, they have less than 100 years, on average, to either implement socialism or blow themselves up, turning their planets into what I think of as dung ball planets. A dung ball planet is one in which humans have made incapable of sustaining life due to nuclear Armageddon. Of the infinite number of worlds where humans have reached the crossroads point of socialism or nuclear holocaust, only 1 in a million avoids becoming a dung ball. It's like a cosmic survival of the fittest. If enough people on a world where the bomb has been invented don't step up to the mark, don't see what needs to be done, their planets will be turned into dung balls. If, on the other hand, there are enough people who step up to the mark and see what's right and implement socialism, then their worlds don't become dung balls. Earthlings, we need to put into motion a plan that will one day see a people of the future living in a world where every one of the 7 to 12 billion of them live happy lives. No money, no nuclear bombs, no politicians, common ownership of the means of production and distribution, free access to goods and services, no poverty, no war, no crime, one people, one world, one love. If there ever is a people of the future like the ones in my future world, they will have the people of now to thank for organising to the best of their ability, yours and mine. Come on, my brothers and sisters, let's rip capitalism a new one. Let's not turn the earth into a dung ball planet. 10. From World War III to socialism. This is what might happen. World War III, all-out nuclear war between America and Russia. 3 months after the first nuke explodes, everyone on the surface of Earth is dead. Over the next 70 years, the people in the nuclear bunkers are forced to emerge as their supplies run out. And after some valiant efforts, they too die. All but 337 people in the South Pole. These people, who history books will record as the founders, start the way they mean and hope for man to go on. They write the guiding principles of man, which goes something like this. 1. The means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth, i.e. land, factories, railways, etc., are to be for evermore the common property of humankind. 2. Democratic control of the means of living is to be for evermore by humankind. 3. One people, one world, one love, one shared interest. 4. Free and equal access to the fruits of labour. 5. A cooperative society, no money for evermore. 6. The good of the people is the greatest law. 7. The aim of the social system is to provide every member of the family of man with the means to a good life. Thousands of years after the Third World War, there are once again 7 billion people on Earth. The guiding principles of man laid down by the founders have been adhered to. There are no nuclear bombs, and there never will be again, and they all live happily ever after, or at least until the sun gets too hot. To go from World War III to socialism would be a hell of a way to get to where we want to be, and the fact of the matter is, if there is an all-out nuclear war, No one will be left alive 100 years after the first nuke explodes. Page 95 of 118. Part 4. A chat with some politicians on the park. We seldom attribute common sense except to those who agree with us. Francis Duckdale, 1613 to 1680. A chat with some politicians on the park. Con. The Conservative Party is a party that's tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. We are the best party for keeping Britain safe. Lab. The Labour Party stands up for the workers. We are the Workers' Party. After all, it was us that gave the workers a free NHS. Lib. The Liberal Party is a party of fairness. We are the party of free expression, the party of tolerance. Green. The Green Party is a party for the environment. We stand for nature. We are all nature's children. We will save the polar bear, the giraffe, the elephant, and maybe even the human race. Kip. The United Kingdom of Independence Party are the party that will save the country from being overrun by greasy foreigners. We will keep the UK well-mannered. Lee. I was born into a world living under capitalism in 1972. I am a wage slave. My hope is that the workers of the world unite so I can die in a world living under socialism, a free man. You've read the first 3 parts of my book. What do you think? Con. Balderdash. Lab. Cobblers. Lib. Pie in the sky, dear boy. Kip. You're mad, you are. Green. You're not the only one who wants an end to world poverty. I think I speak for all 5 of us advocates of capitalism when I say we all want an end to poverty. Con. Hear, hear. Lee. I imagine all right-thinking people would love to see the end of poverty and war and crime, but most people today are sceptical that poverty will ever end. And even if it does, they think, not in my lifetime. People have been conditioned to accept the fundamentals of the current world system as normal and either unchangeable or only changeable through reform after reform over long periods of time. Con. Reforms are a tried and tested method of improving people's working lives and for improving society as a whole. Kip. Yeah, reforms work. If they didn't, children would still be working down mines. Con. Under capitalism, people who do the right thing, work and pay their taxes, Kip, play the game, Con, who contribute to society, will enjoy successful, productive, useful lives. Lab. You don't know that the prosperity the people of Great Britain are enjoying under capitalism won't continue indefinitely. Your reason for thinking this is a golden age, which has maybe another 60 years, amounts to nothing more than a gut feeling. Kip, you have a hunch. Lee, nah, it's just where I've sat. Con. You make the assertion that there is something fundamentally wrong with capitalism, whereas we, advocates of capitalism, as you describe us, maintain there is nothing inherently wrong with the system, and the problems individuals and society have stem from people making bad choices. That's not to say the system can't be improved, and indeed, the ongoing prosperity the British people have enjoyed proves that. The system isn't mother. It isn't there to mother people. It's a system that tries to give people the means and opportunity to enjoy and hopefully better their standard of living and to make a better society for all. The working class and the middle class who take on the challenge to make something of their lives usually succeed. It's not the system that's at fault. It's individuals. Lab. I agree, for once, with my learned colleague. Con. Ha ha ha. Lab. Take the NHS, for example, there are many complaints about the NHS, or rather, many complaints about politicians' decisions regarding the NHS. Sometimes the complaints arise because people have unrealistic expectations. Whilst your people of the future are a nice dream, they are just that, a dream. No social system will ever be perfect because people aren't perfect. The NHS would be in a far healthier state, pardon the pun, were it not for selfish, stupid, ignorant, irresponsible people. They waste doctors' and nurses' time and they waste resources. There are people in Britain, relatively well-paid workers, low-paid workers, and people on benefits who spend £1,000 or more a year on cigarettes or alcohol or junk food or scratch cards, and then turn around and complain that they can't afford to take their children on holiday. They blame politicians and capitalism. The truth is, they only have themselves to blame. It's a free country. If someone wants to smoke, for example, that's up to them. But it's a bit rich when they turn around and blame the system for the bad choices they make. Con. Do you know why people aren't rioting in the streets of Great Britain? It's because they're content, they're happy, they're well fed. The hard-working men and women of Britain would like more money in their pay packets, but they're realists, they're pragmatists, they're not dreamers. A system of free access, even if it's even possible, is a long way off. Whilst life in Great Britain is good for the vast majority, people will accept the status quo. If a person does the right thing, makes good decisions, they will enjoy a good life and a good standard of living, relatively speaking. And if politicians continue to try to do what the people want, then the ongoing reforms will continue to see Britain prosper. Lee. There have been many changes to laws that have improved the lot of the workers and of society. Under capitalism, reforms are always at risk of being reversed, or in danger of doing as much mischief one way as good the other. And it seems to me that advances in technology and medicine have played a greater role in improving the standard of people's lives. Con. Those technological advances and medical breakthroughs happened under capitalism. Reforms work. Capitalism works. Face it. The workers are more prosperous, more affluent than they've ever been before. Lab. Under capitalism, workers' lives have been improving decade after decade. They have more disposable income, better working conditions, enjoy rights that a worker 50, even 20 years ago could only dream of. Con. Members of Parliament from all three serious parties are, for the most part, doing a difficult job very well. Here, lab. The technological advances and cures for many deadly diseases have been made under capitalism. There's no denying that. And it's the belief and the hope of us advocates of capitalism that the progress being made will one day see a world free from poverty. Con. The world's good leaders and other politicians are taking more and more people out of poverty. It's not an easy job to organise the production and distribution of commodities, to meet people's needs, to keep law and order, to maintain and improve the infrastructure, to maintain and improve the social services, to govern and govern well a country. But the rising standard of living shows that not only are British politicians doing a very good job, but that capitalism is working. Lib. Here. Lab. I agree with my learned colleague and would add that the world's good leaders and other politicians are, for the most part, working well together to confront the challenges we all face in terms of global issues. Lee. The technological advances and medical breakthroughs happened despite capitalism, not because of it. If socialists from another world came to Earth in 1904 and told us, Earthlings, how they had once had a money-orientated world, but they had had a peaceful worldwide revolution and established socialism, and that in quite a short space of time it had led to their world being free from poverty, war and crime, and then they flew away without giving us any of their technology or medical know-how, and we took a leaf out of their book and implemented socialism, mankind would have avoided 2 world wars, and all the technological advances and medical breakthroughs that have happened in the last 114 years would have happened only sooner. The affluent worker and the non-affluent worker in the rich countries all use commodities that are produced by workers, including children, who live and work in miserable conditions in the third world. Food, clothes, tantalum, etc. I don't know to what degree. I only know that to some degree the lives that people in rich countries enjoy is only possible because of the workers in the third world, poor bastards who suffer the misery of grinding poverty. With regard to reforms, I'm not a social historian, but I think what happened went something like this. Hundreds of years ago, workers living in slavery in Britain threatened to rip the ruling elite a new one, and so to pacify the angry worker slaves, or villains, the only class made concessions. The result was that the slaves became wage slaves, their livelihoods dependent on market forces, the favour of their employer, and the whims inherent to the capitalist system. Since the 16th or 17th or 18th century, fuck knows when capitalism got started, workers have fought and won hard battles to have their wages increased and their working conditions improved. The ruling elite have learned lessons over the years. It's better to bend a little than snap. Keep the workers docile. Keep them doped with religion, sex and TV. The well-paid puppets of the system, that's you politicians, have the job of convincing the workers that when the system pisses down their backs, which it does all the time, it's not because it's a piss-taking system, it's just because it's raining. Reforms, or so it seems to me, are often nothing more than a sop to the wage slaves to keep them non-rebellious. It's silly, but it's true. It's not always easy to persuade people to do what is in their best interest. Perhaps the reason it's not easy is because the right approach to persuade them is hard to find. I think that if the right approach is found, then real change will follow swiftly. I remember hearing a story about a toothpaste manufacturer in America. They knew from the evidence that using toothpaste kept teeth healthier than not, but all their advertising their product for its health benefits weren't working. And so one day they took their product to an advertising agency who had the bright idea to advertise the toothpaste for its vanity purposes. The guy with the sparkling smile always gets the girl, or the gal with the sparkling smile always gets her man. Vanity, not health, was the right approach to take to persuade people to buy and use something that was in their best interest. Socialism is in the best interest of the workers of the world, but persuading workers that this is the case is not easy until it is. Kip. From what you have written in the first 3 parts of your book, I can only deduce that you have no love for your country. Lib. Deduce? That's a big word for you. Kip. Suck it, faggot. Lib. Charming. Lee. I think each country, the landscape, the wildlife, the weather, the music, the food, the heroes and villains, the stories, true and otherwise, shape the character of the people living there. I was born and brought up on a little council estate in Cheshire. I left home when I was 17 and moved to a big council estate in Lancashire. In June 2017, I couldn't keep up with the rent, so I got evicted. Since then, I've lived in a tent in a beautiful valley by a beautiful river. All my life I've lived in England. I never want to live anywhere else, apart from maybe New Zealand or Canada or maybe China. Brazil could be nice. I'm not patriotic, but I have a greater affection for England than I do any other country. So you can suck on mine, you UKIP bastard. Lib, you don't seem to think a person's vote matters. You think that all 5 of the major political parties in Great Britain are the same. But that's simply not true. The policies of the Liberals, if implemented, will create a much fairer society than those of the nasty party. Con, poppycock. Lab, steady on old sausage. Lee, fair capitalism is an oxymoron. Only free access can make a country, or indeed the world, fair. Some medicines and operations are beyond the means of a poor family. The poor family will have to watch their mother or father or brother or sister or son or daughter die, whilst the rich family have the money for the medicine or operation, and so their loved one gets to live a full life. Under socialism, the artificial barriers that capitalism throws up won't exist. That's to say, inequality won't exist. A person's vote doesn't matter insofar as, if you vote for a capitalist party, you will be left with, regardless of what colour tie wins, a tiny parasitic class in control of the means of living, and everybody else a wage slave. It doesn't make any difference if they're the psycho mad bastards party or the fluffy cute bunnies party. Capitalism dictates how certain things have to be, and all you politicians can do is tinker with it. The fluffy cute bunnies party would implement social policies that are probably more liberal, show more tolerance, and are fairer than the policies of the psycho mad bastards party. But when it comes to changing the fundamentals of how capitalism works, in that respect, a person's vote doesn't matter. Come the general election in the countries that have them, people should either not vote unless they can vote for a party that's a part of the WSM, or they should write across the ballot, "World without money, up yours capitalism." A vote for a capitalist party only encourages the politicians to believe what they're doing is right and that you support capitalism. Votes help politicians to convince themselves that their own lies are either mistruths or justified. Don't forget, we're all in it together. If all 7 billion people on the planet were given the chance to vote after listening to the advocates of capitalism and the advocates of socialism debate on TV and the internet, I think the majority would vote for socialism. Let's give it a go and find out. Con, I don't think you understand much about human nature. If the world tried to implement your idea of socialism, law and order would break down. Kip, yeah, like it did in Russia after the 1916 revolution. I know my history. Lee, I'm not an expert when it comes to the law, nor when it comes to human nature, but I think most laws are either money laws or moral laws. The money laws are those that protect the rights of the owning class to own the means of living. Laws that keep the very rich, and in so doing keep everyone else in relative poverty or dire poverty. What gave the 1% the right to own and control the means to life? The law? But the only class were the ones who made up the money laws. What gave them the right to make up laws that were in their favour? Wealth and power? How did they come to have such wealth and power? Inherited? Money laws that were laid down in the midst of time now see us living under a world system that is not only unfair but immoral. Human nature sees people cooperating and working well together when there's enough of the things people need to go round. Human nature goes hand in hand with fairness. Where things start to go Pete-Tong is when capitalism throws up artificial barriers that prevent people's needs being met, which it does all the time. Capitalism is a dog-eat-dog system. It's testament to the essential goodness of human nature that even under capitalism, we're not all tearing each other to pieces. The more money a person has, the better standard of living they and their family can enjoy. People will do some really crazy shit to get their hands on money. Sometimes the crazy shit is funny as fuck, and sometimes it's tragic. Human nature, if born to a world social system that works in the best interest of humankind, would find it easy to care for one another, easy to share the world with one another, easy to love and be loved. Human nature is compatible with socialism, whereas capitalism can easily make a good person go bad. Con, let me get this straight. Are you saying that when someone breaks the law, or what you call a money law, it's not their fault? Lee, no. If someone commits rape, they can't turn around and blame capitalism. I was thinking in terms of goods. If there was free access to goods, no one would steal goods. I've not explained it very well. Maybe I'll try again in a bit. Lab. Labour, the Workers' Party, knows what workers want. Jobs, jobs and more jobs. Lee. The reason people want a job is first and foremost for the money. Money provides people with a level of security and stability. Other reasons include doing their bit, contributing to society, feeling useful, feeling like they're standing on their own 2 feet, socialising, exercise and so on. Stacking shelves in a supermarket is a repetitive and tedious job. But if you ask people who stack shelves if they like the job, they may very well say yes. It won't be the stacking of the shelves they like, it will be the talking and having a laugh with other people stacking shelves that they enjoy. Under socialism, machines will do as much of the repetitive and tedious work as they can, stacking shelves for example. Where machines can't yet be programmed to do the drudge work, people will have to do it. It's not jobs, jobs and more jobs that workers want, it's maximum leisure time. The chance to do work they enjoy in and of itself, and the freedom to choose how much or how little of the drudge work they want to do. Green. You said that workers' rights are always at risk of being reversed under capitalism, which, due to economic or social factors, or just which parties in government, is true. But wouldn't workers' rights be at risk of being reversed under socialism? Lee. No. Under socialism, in a sense, there wouldn't be any workers. At least, workers wouldn't be workers in a way we think of workers. I don't know how to explain it. People would work, but it wouldn't be for an employer, or a wage, or to make money for a tiny parasitic owning class. It would be for the common good. I don't think there would be any such thing as workers' rights, because people would enjoy the rights of man. That's all the answer I've got. Kip. You call the police and the army bully boys. Con. Disgraceful. Lib. They're brave heroes, one and all. Lab. Hear, hear. Kip. Don't you have any respect for the police and the army? Lee. Most police officers, at least in Britain, are good people. They do an often very difficult job to the best of their ability, and they do it well. Kip. Hear, hear. Lee. That said, I don't think a police officer is a brave hero by virtue of the fact that they're a police officer. Some of them are swines. Capitalism should be criminal, but it's not. It's all legal and above board for the only class to take what the workers have produced in exchange for a wage which for many is just enough for them to get by from one week to the next, and so keeps them on a merry-go-round of dependency. I do respect police officers. My bully boys comment is meant as a joke. It seems to me that the vast majority of crime is either directly or indirectly the result of poverty. If we get rid of poverty, we will more or less get rid of crime. If socialism is established, I think that at some point crime will become a thing of the past. That's just my opinion. If, under socialism, there are still serial killers, for example, then apparatus will be kept in place, firstly to try to catch them, and secondly to decide what to do with them after they're caught. Someone once said, "The law, in its majestic equality, forbids rich and poor alike to sleep under bridges, beg in the street, or steal bread." The police do the best they can with the resources they have to clean up the mess that results from living under capitalism. It's a mess they will have to go on and on and on cleaning up until we either blow ourselves up or we implement socialism. As for the army, most of them are good men and women, though I don't think a soldier is a brave hero by virtue of the fact they're a soldier. To borrow a bit of military parlance, to be a hero, you have to do something above and beyond the call of duty. As for bravery, there can be no bravery without fear. A person can walk into a room with a bloody great big lion in it. If they're not afraid to do that, then when they do, they have shown no bravery. A person can walk into a room with a cute little kitten in it. If they're afraid to do that, but do it anyway, then they have been brave. British politicians want the public to believe that every time the British Army is deployed, it is either to keep Britain safe or for humanitarian reasons. Whereas I think the truth of the matter is that most of the wars and conflicts the British Army have fought and died in have been to keep the ruling class rich or help them get richer. Attention, soldier, yours is not to reason why, yours is just to kill and die. It seems to me that even World War II was more about the money than it was anything else. Men and women on all sides were conned into thinking that they were fighting in the national interest, when really what they were killing and dying for was to see which of the parasites would gain the greater control of the means and instruments for producing wealth. I don't believe parallel universes exist, but if they do, there may be a world somewhere whose history goes something like this. 1939. The German army captures or kills most of the British army at Dunkirk. 1940. Germany and its allies win the Battle of Britain. Britain surrenders and signs a peace treaty. 1941. America declares war on Japan and its allies. 1942. Germany and its allies win the war in the East. Russia surrenders and signs a peace treaty. 1944. Germany drops 2 nuclear bombs on America. America surrenders and signs a peace treaty. The Second World War ends. Estimated dead 20 million, including 2 million in the Holocaust. 1945. The United States of Europe, USA, is formed. A single currency is implemented. 1946. America acquires the nuclear bomb. The Cold War begins. 1948. Adolf Hitler dies. History remembers him as an essentially good man with 1 or 2 character flaws. 1962. Nuclear war narrowly avoided by the USA and America. 1971. England and many other countries in the 1970s leave the USA and revert to their own currencies. 1978. It's estimated that 90% of Europeans own a mobile phone. 1984. The internet is invented. 2018. The vast majority of the world's wealth is in the hands of a tiny minority. The Earth's resources are largely controlled by 1% of the people. The means of production and distribution are, for the most part, owned by a tiny number of parasites. The 99% do all the work and are wage slaves, living in relative poverty or dire poverty. In an ideal world, workers in Germany in the 1930s wouldn't have felt so depressed that it seemed like a good idea to support and follow the crazy motherfucker Adolf Hitler. They would instead have organised with the workers of Russia and Britain and China and France and America and all the other workers of the world to establish socialism. And so the First World War would have gone down in history as the world's only world war. Kip, let me get this straight. Are you saying that it would have been better if Germany, instead of Britain and America, had won the Second World War? Lee, if Germany winning the Second World War would have meant that 20 million people died instead of 60 million, and things in 2018 were the same regardless of who won, then obviously it would have been better if the Germans would have won the war. I don't believe that a German victory would have meant 1,000 years of evil. Sanity was always going to return to the people of Germany, and when it did, they would have fought and struggled and eventually overthrown the dictatorship and gone back to democracy, and Europe and the world would have gone back to normal, or as normal as life could be under an insane social system like capitalism. Until we implement socialism, we will always be at risk of world war, and there will always be a tiny parasitic class, and the rest of us fuckers working for 50 years and then being given a shit pension. Who won the Second World War didn't matter with regard to what would be left when the dust had settled, a tiny owning class and the rest of the human race. Green, what do you mean by poverty? Lee, I'm starting to feel tired. I don't know how to answer that question. According to the Muppet media and you politicians, there's a shed load of different types of poverty. Why you differentiate between different types of people and different types of things when it comes to poverty, I don't know. Pensioner poverty. I've got nothing against pensions, but why single them out? Is it worse for an old person to live in poverty than a young man or woman? I wouldn't have thought so. An 89-year-old who has been poor all their life has got what it takes to live with poverty. Your average 89-year-old has more tenacity, a stronger will to survive than your average 19-year-old. They're not called coffin dodgers for nothing. Child poverty. If parents are living in poverty, then it follows that the kids will be living in poverty. Why not have a term that implies shared misery? Family poverty. Fuel poverty. Fuel's important, but then again, so are lots of things. Why not food poverty, or clothes poverty, or furniture poverty, or kitchen appliances poverty, or living room appliances poverty? Why not just put the word poverty after every fucking word? Fucking poverty. Housing poverty, healthcare poverty, transport poverty, social care poverty, psychological poverty, imaginary poverty, in-work poverty, part-time poverty, one-day-a-week poverty, African poverty, European poverty, world poverty. It's all fucking poverty to me. We will make poverty a thing of the past poverty, when we, workers of the world, unite and implement socialism. I'm going to go back to my tent now and get me tea. Page 111 of 118, Part 5, A Letter to the Human Race, Help. And we will be astonished to think of how long we submitted to live as we live now. William Morris, 1834 to 1896. Dear human race, help the world socialist movement grow. Give everyone your guided tour of a world enjoying a socialist system. If you agree with the object and declaration of principles, peaceful revolution is the only way. Let your imagination run wild. Give everyone your guided tour of the ideal world man has made for man. When enough people dream the same dream, it stops being a dream and becomes one vision of what could be, should be, and will be if they have the courage, conviction, and determination to make it a reality. We are in a race. Will it be Armageddon or socialism? Time will tell. If it's to be the latter, the WSM and the WWMM will have to grow and grow quickly. Time is of the essence. People of the world, join your hearts and minds together. Act with one purpose. Help everybody if you can. Help every boy, girl, woman and man. Or just keep right on voting for capitalist parties and hoping for the best. Try to understand that it is in everyone's best interest to establish a world social system that will see free access to the means of living. Everybody man up. Try to put man up higher. All you sisters and brothers, take the next step up the ladder of social evolution by having and enjoying a worldwide peaceful revolution. There's never been a better time to organise the transition from private and state ownership of the means of production and distribution to the common ownership and commonwealth of all the brothers and sisters of Earth, present and future. Write your best thoughts and hopes for humankind. Write from the heart and demand real change, not the bullshit politicians' real change. Real socialism, because we're worth it. The emancipation of the workers, now, because it's time. Help everybody if you can. Help every boy, girl, woman and man. Help make money a thing of the past. Help establish a system that's designed to last. We can't go on polluting the land, the oceans, the air, the way we do today. It's not sustainable. And poverty doesn't have to be normal. Oh, that's just the way it is. Poverty isn't normal in a world that could meet the needs of all in abundance. The aim of today's world system is to make money, not to meet our needs. That's why there's poverty. Help each other break through. Smash down the wall. Show the Muppets and the puppets that you understand that capitalism isn't normal, it's insane. Capitalism isn't unchangeable, the chains of poverty unbreakable, socialism impossible. It's time to take the next step in our social evolution. People need persuading, that's all. It's in our best interest to abolish capitalism and establish a world social system based upon the common ownership and democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth by and for the good of humankind. Today's Muppet media is bad news. They keep asking the wrong questions, and so people don't get the right answers. Round and round we go in a spiral of bullshit. Ask the right questions about what is the underlying cause of the world's pain, and the answer comes back, capitalism. Ask the right questions about what the solution to the world's pain is, and the answer comes back, socialism. It's the only good answer. Socialism is good news. Good news if enough members of the family of man strive to implement our ideal social system. The best our skill and talent, genius and wisdom, intelligence and ability can achieve. Socialism is the answer. Every other answer leaves in place the status quo, a continuation of poverty, war and crime, and the ongoing threat of Armageddon, no longer a threat but a reality, and we all fall down. Try to see in your mind's eye us organising a transition from the current world system to a system designed to meet our needs. Imagine us bringing home true socialism. See us put our house in order. For the first time in history, let's have a conscious, planned, worldwide, social, peaceful revolution. Don't throw bricks. Don't be dicks. It's a battle of ideas. Establish a system that works for one and all, that makes it easy for us to share the world with one another, means we can take what we need in a way that is fair from the wealth that is produced by one another, sees the beginning of a world that is sustainable. Trust in one another. Trust that most people are decent. Trust in your brothers and sisters. Trust in the works of the world. Trust in a peaceful worldwide revolution. Trust in socialism, a world without money. Help end poverty and war and crime, or at the very least, the vast majority of crime. Help everybody if you can. Help every boy, girl, woman and man. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come on now people, let's get on the ball and work together. Let your imagination be free. Give everyone your guided tour of a world enjoying a socialist system. If you agree with the object and declaration of principles, peaceful revolution is the only way. Let your imagination run wild. Give everyone your guided tour of the ideal world we have made for each other with our love. Help the World Without Money movement. Page 115 of 118, Part 6. A timeline of Homo sapien, aka Wise Monkey Man. We will either find a way or make one. Hannibal, 247 to 182 BC. A timeline of Homo sapien, aka Wise Man. The beginning. 100,000 BC. Atomically modern man, Homo sapiens, present in Africa, dispersed worldwide. 40,000. Implements show significant advances. Small knife blades, engraving tools, painting and sculpture, magic rites and ceremonies. 15,000. Agricultural settlements, e.g. Jericho. Settled way of life, leading eventually to such skills as weaving, metallurgy, inventions as ox-drawn plough, wheel cart. 1600, late Minoan age, linear B script. 508, democratic constitution proclaimed in Athens. 1454 AD, first dated printing from movable types in Europe. 1519, Magellan begins first circumnavigation of the world. 1666, Newton discovers the law of gravitation. 1783, first flights in hot air balloons. 1825, first railway, Stockton to Darlington, opened. 1831, Faraday discovers electromagnetic induction. 1859, Darwin publishes Origin of Species. 1876, Bell ends the race to invent the telephone. 1918, First World War ends. 1919, Einstein's theory of relativity confirmed experimentally during solar eclipse. 1945, Second World War ends. Atomic bombs dropped for first and last time on people. 1972, birth of Lee Heath. 2019, the World Without Money movement begins to grow. 2035, solar panels set up on the bright side of the moon. Man's power clean and sustainable. 2041, space rock defense shield put in place. 2048, first Love Everyone on Earth Day celebrated by the world. 2219, hopes from the book World Without Money that have come to be. Poverty, a thing of the past. Tick. War, a thing of the past. Tick. Crime, a thing of the past. Tick. Scumbags and bellends a thing of the past. Tick. Politicians a thing of the past. Tick. Everyone having a good time. Tick. 10,000. Status quo continues. Maximum leisure time, free access, liberty to choose the life you love. 1 million. Ice ages periodically affect humankind. Population drops to just under 5 billion during Big Ice Age. 1 billion. Status quo still going strong. No life on other planets discovered. Computer machines remain as nothing more than unthinking tools. 2 billion. Kids continue to sit on parks, chatting and chilling, living successful, productive, useful lives. 3 billion. The dream is over. The most beautiful planet that ever there was, no longer able to sustain human life. The human race is run. Thank you, Mother Earth. The end.